Okay, calling to order the Joint Committee on Transportation and Ways and Means. So this afternoon, we'll hear from the Department of Transportation on their supplemental budget requests. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Chair Dela Cruz, Chair Lee, and Vice Chair Moriwaki. Ed Sniffen with Hawaii Department of Transportation. If okay, Chairs, I'd like to introduce the team that we have here, and then be open to walk through the table 6 areas if you'd like. On our team today, we have our Deputy Director of Administration, Tammy Lee, Deputy Director for Harbors, Dre Khalidi, our Administrator for Airports, Ford Fujigami, and our Special Assistant, Melissa Miranda Johnson. We have our Deputy Director of Highways, Robin, on Maui, taking care of the storm issues that are occurring out there. This morning, he was going to fly in and tell them to stay out there. We need him out there to make sure we address all the issues out there. But he's listening in online. He'll text me if I misspeak on anything. So if okay, I'd love to run through the table 6 areas.
Table 6, that's the fastest.
Perfect. Can we start off on the highways piece?
Okay, what program ID?
It's on highway, the page, this table 6.
You want to start off with 102?
Yeah. So when I start looking at the program ID area, get 501, right? We'll start with, we have our table 6 that shows the priority statewide. Do you have that table? It's table, what's this?
The proposed budget additions.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. You did. Okay.
Yeah. And in the 5th column, there's the statewide priority.
The first page is airports. Second page is
You guys broke them in different
harbors. I think that's what you guys sent out. And then
third one is highways.
And then you went into, okay, so you want to start with highways?
Yes, please. I'll go do that one.
Okay, highways is page, kind of plenty in harbors.
I get them as highway
Program
19 of
ID.
73.
What's the program ID?
No, what page is that, Colin?
Table 6, 19 of.
Oh, here,
Page 59.
59.
59.
Okay.
Okay.
The fringe benefit increase, that
No, get one right before that. Peter, before that.
additional funds for R&M.
Yeah. That's all.
Okay,
So that one get the 5th column should be department statewide priority or department-wide priority. And we
Yeah.
rank it from 1 to 12, right?
Yeah.
The first one we have in there is additional funds for routine maintenance for our grounds. It's a $3 million request for Oahu to increase for landscaping. What we found is definitely we're short on crews, especially when we start getting hit by storms in different areas. We've been contracting more to make sure we keep up with landscaping. Just recently in Kailua, there were areas of the medians that we couldn't get to. So we're getting more contractors on board. That's the request here, just to help fill that gap. Priority 2 is additional funds for guardrails on the Big Island. More getting hit. So we want to make sure that we get them prepared as soon as possible to minimize the potential for any of the drivers who may lose control to get hurt in those areas. Priority 3 is
because accidents are going up.
so the crashes on the Big Island are. We haven't seen more fatalities, which is a good thing, but the guardrails are helping. So we want to make sure that we keep those guardrails in good condition.
Interesting.
That's the guardrails to go over the cliff kind of guardrails or
In some
guardrails?
areas, yes, but in other areas, just like on BKI Highway, there's guardrails just to keep you from going off into the unprotected areas.
I guess everybody needs guardrails.
They help tremendously. Okay, number 3 priority is the same for landscaping on Big Island, but it's for prison lines. We've been working. I'm sorry, this is for Oahu. We've been working with Hawaii Correctional Industries to make sure that we get more assistance in landscaping through those areas, and this is to fund 5 to 6 prison lines.
Is that different than the dry grass that you're removing, or is that all the same thing?
It's related. So when we start pulling our crews off to take care of fire mitigation, whether it's fuel reduction or whether it's fire breaks, we got to fill those gaps with other either contractors or with Hawaii Correctional Industries. So it's kind of related in those areas.
So are these in different areas, or how come there's two citations, the 1 and 3 department-wide?
Number 1 is landscaping. This is for contractors or contracting. Number 4.
No, it says there. It says to provide Oahu, to provide Hawaii,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then
So that was number 3.
Yeah.
Number 4 is to purchase a bucket truck from Maui. Maui, we have our traffic signal group. So this one is to help us take care of the traffic signals and new cameras that went up as part of our adaptive signals in that area. It also helps us with tree trimming in different areas so we can minimize the potential for tree impacts on the highways. Number 5 is for traffic control, specifically for off-duty police officers. But what we found, of course, is when we have police officers on site, more people are more amenable to paying attention to the traffic control. Number 6, this is Big Island again. This one is for
Trimming.
tree trimming again in this area. Number 7 is also for traffic control, but just for flaggers. So in some cases where we cannot get HPD, we use flaggers instead.
Oh,
Number 8, this is the only one of all of our requests that's a general fund request. So this is for stored property enforcement. This is the funds that we look for every year that helps us not only enforce on DOT rights of way, but all state right of way. And we've been assisting the county in their areas as well. We just worked with the military recently on an area in Waihawa.
This is for the homeless.
Yeah,
This is
so
the
anyone who's in state or county properties illegally.
And is this only one time only funding or is it, I mean, are we gonna stop doing that?
We'd love to, but the thing is, that there's been incursions into state properties more and more. So every year we've been looking for that $5 million.
no, they're asking for recurring.
Oh,
Yeah.
this is recurring, okay.
Number
They're asking for recurring.
Yeah,
That
yes.
doesn't mean it's gonna be recurring, but
Yeah.
they're asking. Okay.
Number 9 is for this DB disparity study. This is required by federal highways for all of our contracting requirements. When we look at disadvantaged businesses in our procurements. And that's both number 9s. Number 10 is our Google Safety Analytics. We built a platform to ensure that we have speed throughout the state and hard braking throughout the state so we can be proactive in finding areas with friction on the system that we can start addressing and mitigating before crashes occur. This portion adds bike and ped information as well. So it's always been a struggle for us to get accurate bike and ped information because we either did it by survey or cameras at different locations for limited times. What this does is takes the Google data and runs it through different iterations, tying in purchases in different communities to see how best to tie in the bike and ped numbers. So they go by the speeds on the system that the phones or the information is moving and try to tie in all the other information that they have to see how we can come up with reasonable numbers for bike and ped in different locations.
Is that connected with this, all the multimodal plans? Because you look at the traffic and how you can keep them in their separate lanes so they don't hit each other.
Well, I think the biggest thing is to make sure that we identify areas of biggest conflict. And we know that it generally is at schools. But there are other locations where there are big drivers, whether they be parks or shopping centers and the like, where we know there's going to be big bike and ped conflicts with drivers. We want to make sure we can identify those and identify how we design best to keep everybody safe.
Okay, next.
5% central services increase, not a priority. Fringe benefits, and that's all mandated on the increases.
Okay, so you have quite a bit of that.
Yeah.
And then the conversion.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay,
So
so airports. Airports is short list, yeah?
Yeah.
And then harbors. So airports is page what? $47. Okay, so
Airport, which got the airport's administrator.
you got like how many ones over here?
Yeah.
Okay.
All priorities.
This is a federal mandate. April of this year, the administrator for TSA issued a memorandum basically stating that effective, and it was supposed to be September 25th of this year, all airports had to do what's called 100% employee screening. That means that anybody with an AOA badge similar to what I have, who comes to the airport and goes into the sterile area, needed to be screened via their bags and their bodies themselves. So it's very similar to passenger screening. So what this entails is that we're going to have to be able to go ahead and set up checkpoints for all our employees who work at all the various airports that are certified by the TSA. So what I need basically is that I need security contracts for these airports so they can do the service. I need equipment, both passenger screening equipment and hand carry equipment. And I'm gonna need special maintenance money because we're gonna have to build these checkpoints, is what it comes down to. And of course, basically just the maintenance of it.
And so what TSA wants to do is pull the employees out of the lines. But what they're doing is making sure they work with us to provide us any equipment that they have that's in excess that they can transfer to us. It's going to take a little while, but also not have us run this 24/7, because when the checkpoints are not busy, we can redirect employees to the TSA checkpoints again.
And then the first, I guess, half of your list is the
Number one.
and then the additional security equipment is part of that.
That is correct.
That's the 13.2 million.
Well, basically, when it comes to the security contracts, we're looking at about 3 million. The 13.2, you're exactly correct, is for the equipment. The 10 million is basically for the CIP or the special maintenance to build the facilities for us to accommodate them. And then the last $6 million basically is for special maintenance projects at various airports.
And then the ARF pumper. You need the staff.
Yes, that's correct. The additional 12 positions, which we did trade-offs. We took vacant
Yeah,
positions.
so
out.
it's just the money.
Yeah.
The 139,000. So that's the difference of what you need.
Yes.
Question.
Oh, okay.
So how many employees would this system be covering?
I'm sorry, how many employees?
Going into
For the increased security.
Well, we have about a little over 20,000 AOA badge holders. So every single one of them who goes into the airport have to be screened.
Okay, right now they're being screened, but they're going through.
No,
Not
right,
being
right
screened at
now,
all.
what we have is we have these doors that actually, if you, every single badge you can swipe. And depending on what level you hold, you can go through doors, so you don't have to be screened.
So what portion of the employees, how percent, number of employees that can go through the doors?
Right now, almost all except for some of the concessionaire employees are not able to go through it. They got to go through the TSA employee checkpoints.
So the TSA checkpoints will still be the airlines and some of these vendors.
The airlines,
And it's only gonna
passengers, and
be
certain
your
vendors,
employees.
yes.
And
Well, once I get the equipment up and running, we're gonna take the vendors away from them. So that we can free up space so that our passengers can go through much quicker.
that's a lot of hard costs just to create a whole new system, right?
Director and I did have a meeting with the administrator yesterday. We did express that, and again, it's every airport in the US, which is about 435 airports that have to go through the same thing. We did ask them about asking Congress for the money.
Yeah, so what Administrator Prokowski had shared with us is a lot of the funding that should be going into that TSA program are being pushed to other programs, about 1.5 billion. They're trying to recapture that money to make sure that we can minimize the cost of the airports.
So I understand that, but when you go to the airports now, they don't open up all the checkpoints. So they can't absorb some of that, but they make you walk all the way to checkpoint 4, checkpoint 2 or 1, I don't know which way it goes, but they close up all the closer ones and they don't use it. And so inconvenient now. And so now they want to create something else and they still not going to open up these checkpoints to make it more convenient for the travelers.
We
Does that
brought
make
that up.
sense?
We brought that up to them to see how we could minimize the cost to the state by TSA absorbing a lot of this work. He was saying from his perspective, and he had this conversation with many other states, it's not a if, it's a requirement. So they're going to hold us to it, but they're going to try and minimize the impacts to us as
Can
much
we
as possible.
require them to open up all the checkpoints?
We cannot. I mean,
Well, because you go to the United one, you go all the way there, only to go back all the
yeah,
way to
checkpoint.
like where the
Then
middle.
you go all the way back to KG.
yeah. So what we cannot
And
control.
if you only have carry on like Senator Lee, then you're like, oh man, I
Well,
gotta
just maybe 10 seconds and talk about the reshuffling of all the security checkpoints. that
Yeah, so
being
one of
considered
the
right now.
things that we're doing is that we have 2 master plans going on right now. One basically post-security and one pre-security. Under the pre-security, we're trying to go in and we're trying to say checkpoint 3, which is the main checkpoint, is what it comes down to. But what we want to do is add 2 checkpoints. Checkpoint 3, which is located where it is now, and expanding that and putting more lanes there. And then we want to add another checkpoint, which is actually located to the Diamond Head side of where Lobby 8 is, where United is. So that anybody who actually checks in Lobby 7, Lobby 8 can actually go through the, I don't know what we're gonna call that checkpoint. Because your gates for United are located at the G gates, which is Diamond Head. So this is something that we've been working on, and I know Senator's been involved in this long before I even started back at the airport. So he probably is a better subject matter expert on this than I am, but the goal is to put sufficient amount of lanes in checkpoint 3s to accommodate lobbies 4, 5, 6. And then hopefully we can take, do the second one right next to United
Okay,
Airlines.
there's one right there next to American and.
There's a lobby,
American.
yeah, there's checkpoint
What
5.
is that? Checkpoint 5?
Yeah, and normally we use that for pre-checks. And
No,
only,
they don't for pre-check, they have to go to 4.
well,
for
again,
checks.
depending on the activity is what it comes down to. It's all based on schedule.
Lord, I traveled more in this last year than ever before,
Yeah.
and I have never seen that one open recently in all this year.
Yeah, it's
And I
really,
travel all time, day and night,
it's,
right?
it's based on the flight schedule. If you take a look at the flight schedule. Bobby-
Global
Huh?
travelers, that is.
No, what it is basically is that besides United, you have ANA and you have Asiana.
Okay,
that
but
flies-
they open number 5, I'm telling you. So
Well-
why can't they do it now and just open up number 5?
We do open number 5, like with ANA. ANA has 3 flights. One leaves at 11:30.
No, but you don't open it, right? It's TSA's.
Right, yeah, that's not our call.
Yeah.
You're absolutely correct. Well, we can make recommendations to them.
But if
and-
you shut down 1 and 2, if you shut them down and they have no other way, but they have to open it up. You know what I'm saying? There's ways to
Yeah,
hopefully
but-
make them do stuff. Shut them down, do some construction, do something and force them to open it up. Come on.
That space that's allocated for the checkpoints is allocated to TSA. I mean, we have to say in what they do there. I mean,
Okay, you might find some added construction money in the budget.
And maybe do an info briefing just on airport stuff coming up to dive into it, because obviously you're concerned with like
We can, and we can share,
everybody.
we can share the partnerships that we've been pushing with TCA. In the past, they weren't as good partner, I would say, as they are now. They've been more willing to discuss adjustments to their operations more than ever before. So we can make sure we can recircle with them. Love to have an info briefing to
they've
discuss
been
it.
most helpful. During COVID, basically the decision was made because of staffing that they were only going to have one checkpoint open. And there was a huge fight internally because the one checkpoint meant we would have to shut down the checkpoint in Terminal 1 where Hawaiian flight.
You don't have to go into that. I'm
Okay.
just saying that,
Yeah.
we shouldn't just take everything they tell us. We should be
No, no, no.
doing some things to
Yeah.
encourage them
Mhm.
or, get them to make it more convenient. Because they're saying they want to open up so there's more passengers to go through, but they're not opening up the lanes that they already have. The equipment is all set up, everything's set up there, and they don't open it.
Yeah, so this effort of screening employees is from their perspective, not necessarily to get more passengers through. This is to screen everybody that gets into the airport. Right now, there's people who can get through gates.
But you said that it will take people out of the
Definitely.
line and make it more.
Right.
Definitely.
Put more lanes for people, but there are more lanes already there if you just open it.
It's, again, to take whatever employees that are going through the passenger.
But it might be helpful if you have the plans, we can see the drawings of what it's gonna end up looking like.
Can do.
Yeah.
Because then I think that's easier for people
Yeah.
to see.
In Terminal 2, we only have 2 checkpoints. All the other checkpoints are going to be gone.
Yeah, I think we talked about this at the info briefing. We can get more information
And
before
then
we
we
have that.
also should bring up at the info briefing, this whole thing on security, because we talked with law enforcement and they was talking about doing it statewide, including airports. So I want to get your folks taking.
Yeah, and I think in general, that's the overall goal for law enforcement.
You,
They're
you
not
have a
even-
combination though, right?
Yeah.
You have contractors and you have.
Yeah,
Well, you're talking about more contractors with this new system. He's saying they're gonna have a security
But
contract.
what law is talking about is,
Well, we know what they're talking about. I'm just saying this is gonna have another security
Yeah.
contract.
absolutely.
right,
So
Absolutely.
we can
But,
talk about it.
Is it expanding the existing one or?
it's a different type. We have 3
Different.
types.
Oh, so it'd be a whole new RFP?
No, we have 3 types of security. We have LEOs, which are law enforcement officers who carry weapons.
Yeah.
We have airport security officers who basically man what we call the exit aisles. I'm sure you see them sitting there. And we have TCOs, which are the traffic control officers, which stand on the curb.
Yeah.
Which they haven't been.
Okay, so again, what we're probably, we're looking at ASOs. We're not looking at law enforcement officers, guys who carry weapons is what it comes down to.
So that's contract or state employees?
It will be contract.
Okay. And what's their training?
Well, basically, it's just screening. It's just, we're gonna actually train them. In fact, TSA has volunteered to help us train them.
They don't, what do they have? Baton, pepper spray, taser?
No,
Just
they,
screening.
Flashlight.
TSA,
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Did you get the
agents-
community college training in there? And they spray you with the pepper. They hit you with the baton.
through the checkpoints. Anytime you go through a checkpoint, a TSA agent is not trained to defend themselves. And that's why they will not. I don't know if you remember that incident that happened maybe several years ago where a homeless person attacked one of the TSA agents and nobody did, I mean, literally anything because they cannot. It was an off-duty, basically, sheriff from the continental US who jumped over the barrier and basically assisted with that. But that's the other thing. It's what they're required to do and what they're not required to do is the challenge.
Okay, what else you got then? Oh, you want, that's all left?
That's it.
But every checkpoint, since I mean, I'm not a traveler like Senator Kim, every checkpoint, when you're going out, there's two officers, police or police.
Yes.
guns.
That is required.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then where were they when these homeless guys beating up on TSA?
Unfortunately, they were on the backside.
Oh,
Every checkpoint, these law enforcement have to have purview of the entire area. But where this thing occurred is where the K9 is in checkpoint.
yeah.
It occurred on that side, and you can't see on that side. That queuing area actually is the responsibility of the state. Once they get to the checkpoint and you show your ID, that's the property that belongs to TSA.
Okay, and the contract for the security you guys gonna have is gonna be the same one as you guys have for the
Yeah, it's
outside
just gonna be
parking lot, right?
basically change order to the existing contract that we have.
No, the only reason why, can you give us some breakdown on the contract that the guys outside that is monitoring the road? What the state is paying them and how much is the pay for the workers? Because I hear that we're paying $42 per person and they're only paying those guys $11, $12. So I don't know why we're paying French benefits like vacation, sick leave and all of that. And the company itself not giving them that. So
Wait,
that's something that I would like.
You
to
can take a look on our page 101. And it has a list of all the contracts. So if you want to ask about a specific one, it's on that page.
Security.
Yeah, you can. Wait, real quick. You have airports?
Yeah.
Okay, because then after the airports questions, then we still have Harbors who's gonna go over their additions.
Yeah.
Senator Elefante.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, directors. Question on table 15. You had two items. One was 500 million. One was 121.7 million to do DKI, H&L improvements. What does those improvements specifically cover? And does that include anything for planning and design for the Diamond Head new gates area and expansion of DKI, H&L?
Which airlines is that? Which airlines are those?
Oh, I don't know which airlines, but that's supposed to be a future expansion, right?
Yeah,
From previous
so it's basically
discussions.
United, again, ANA, Delta, American, Southwest, all those airlines are affiliated with that, but the breakdown of 500 million, basically we have, yeah, we go through them all. $18 million for, again, ticket lobby improvements. We have another 30 million for more ticket lobby improvements. We have 5 million basically for the parking structure in Terminal 2 that we're going to be working on. We have another 100 million for the project, which is one of the things that we highlighted in our notes video. We're going to be working on fixing the spalding on
Oh,
the overseas terminal parking lot because of the fact that it's cracking.
yeah, you can see it.
Yeah.
The new
Again, we
No, I guess when you're driving, you can see it all exposed.
yeah, in that terminal, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're gonna work. It's over $100 million.
No, but that's the old one, not the new one, right?
No, yeah, that's
Yeah.
correct.
Oh,
$5 million, again, Terminal 1 improvement where Hawaiian is. We have about $17 million in the roadway spalding, again, in the Terminal 2.
No, you guys don't have to write it down. We can ask for it.
Yeah, I can send all of this to you. I'm just gonna read it off real quickly. $7 million for what we call SCADA equipment. Basically, it's equipment that helps us go ahead and manage our different systems that we have when it comes to air conditioning and other things. $20 million for the TSA security improvements that we're working on. Fire sprinkler systems, about 13 million. Another the fence line replacement that we have to do around all our airports, about $15 million. The employee parking structure that we're gonna be building, because once we do the Diamond Head Terminal, we have to vacate the vacant lot, well, the lots that we have.
So part
now.
of your question, for the Diamond Head Concourse, one of the enabling projects is this parking structure.
Correct.
One of the biggest issues that we're gonna run into when we go to the Diamond Head Concourse is the environmental clearance that's necessary for that parking lot area, because it's right next to the fuel farm. Knowing from Mauka Concourse, anytime we were near the fuel farm, there was a plume. We know there's gonna be one there, so we need to pull those parkers out of that area. We can open up that lot for the environmental clearances. Once we get through that, then we can lock down a real time frame for the Diamond Head Concourse.
Thank you. Another $26 million for Interline Terminal.
Good.
Oh, we're good.
Yeah, you can just send us the list. that's fine.
Okay, and then we have more for the other 2021 that we were asking.
Okay. And harbors page for us, page 40. You guys have kind of plenty.
I think on our table 6, the explanations are lengthy,
Oh,
but the
sorry.
request, there's
What
just
page is-
15.
Table 6. 48, okay. Page 48.
So just as an overview, I think we could put,
You can
Are-
group them.
we
That's
can,
fine.
do that, right?
Go ahead.
And so it's 2 groups. One is additional funds for other current expenses. Those are priorities 1 through 6. And those are just based on increased expenses that we've seen over the past year or year and a half. Up to the time where we prepared our original buy-in request. And so it includes things like increased costs for security as cruise ship arrivals have increased and approaching pre-pandemic levels, increases in fuel costs.
Yeah.
Water expense. So when you see the request for ad funds for for other current expenses, that's what that is. And then and that's about $4 million of our request. And the balance of $12 million is basically adding funds for routine maintenance in our district levels. And some of that we can extract out of our special maintenance program budget and have our
Yeah.
districts do it rather than have it be an engineering project.
So that's where no money in those lines.
Well, no, where there's no money, that's just like our very lengthy
It's the
explanation.
extension of the.
Oh,
You guys definitely win for most of it.
I think we took some feedback from last year's briefing and I think we overdid it a little.
Okay, so then now you're at what? The 4.9? Or you covered that?
Yeah, you're at the 4.9.
Oh, yes. So priority 7 through priority 15 are basically adding funds for routine maintenance. And so it's basically shifting projects from our engineering team down to our
Yeah,
district.
it looks like some big numbers, but when you think that it's the harbor, the number is actually relatively.
Pretty small, actually.
So examples of that, routine maintenance could be like our bollards when they pop off, when we have too heavy a ship tied up to the pier and, those things that they get tied up to, the bollards pop off. Our district staff could replace them and repair them rather than wait for an engineering team to do, design work and then procure a contractor. So it's efficiency and higher expediency
Yeah.
of our project delivery.
Any questions for harbors? See, they all catch planes.
I think one request that we don't have in the budget, because the discussions came up a little later, is Port Allen, a study on Port
Yeah,
Allen.
yeah.
So we're gonna be working with the,
And tomorrow we have the site visit. right?
yeah, perfect.
Senator Richardson.
We flying there? Or we taking the boat?
Thank you, Chair. Real quick, have you heard from the military yet concerning High Harbor, specifically the LST landing? Have you heard anything as of yet? Okay. All right, I'll follow up with them because they know that we need to know as the state what's going to go on with the harbor. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So the security cameras at the airport parking, that's all fixed now. How come? It's been like what, almost 10 years?
Outdated.
They're still working on the putting in more cameras. That's what it
But
looks
are
like.
the ones there working now? Because
That was a problem before.
remember, there was quite a bit
Yeah.
of theft in
The
the,
ones that are there now are working.
Because before they weren't working, right?
That's correct.
So there was no cameras working, and then we had all these thefts.
Right.
And then all the illegal tour roll and all that
Right.
stuff in the parking lot.
Right. So
So now
we,
you have the cameras working at minimum.
the ones that were originally installed are working, but
Okay,
we are putting additional cameras in there.
because more, because you took over the rental car side, right? So
Yeah.
they probably had their own.
Because of security reasons, I gotta be very careful in terms of what I speak.
Oh,
In the
okay.
public is what it comes down to.
Okay,
So again, the cameras that were in there are working, but we felt that there were additional cameras that were needed for us to accomplish what we wanted to do.
okay, so that's gonna be installed.
Yeah, it's in the process of being,
What's the timing of that?
that I would have to get back to you.
And then I guess sometimes I see routine, cycling.
Right now, because we've been having thefts in the parking lot, we have a special program going on also. With the sheriffs, with law, along with our allied partners. What they're doing is they're riding their bikes around again. So there are special security measures that we're taking. And again, due to security reasons, I just don't want to talk to about it in public.
So have you seen the numbers go down?
To date, I haven't seen the number of arrests that we made, but what I can do is I can type a report
I
to
mean,
you.
I don't hear as many about them in the news
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah.
So I just assume that. I
I-
mean, and
I-
I see the bike now, I see some of
Yeah.
the cycling.
I think the program that Lieutenant Marcial, who is our airport commander, put together in light of, all the situations and everything being in the media, what he did, I think is working. And again, I can share that information with you separately.
Okay. So it's a consistent program through all your lots.
Yes.
Just following up on that, I just thought of it since you mentioned it.
He's the one with the Tesla. So, my car was cheap.
I had it before Elon Musk kind of, that said, on Turo, last year there was an issue particularly on the neighbor islands, I think a lot of usage of the parking lots, which is displacing local residents and causing problems. From a revenue perspective, are we at a point yet where we have a contract with them where they're being charged, like we charge rental car companies and so
Not
on?
yet. So we're still working with Turo and working out the details.
Oh,
We're,
yeah.
we're almost there last year, at the end of last year.
Well, the most they pay is the regular parking fee when they leave.
Yeah, so we're working on a percentage on their daily sales right now to make sure we can lock that down. And
But
of
does
course-
that need legislation or is that?
No, we can work with them directly. We can work,
We gave explicit authority last year.
yeah,
to-
we can work it out directly with Turo to make sure that we can capture the costs
Yeah.
for them to do business on campus. And of course, there's concerns from rental car companies that there has to be a parity
Yeah.
between them and
Yeah.
Turo, and that's what we're trying to work out
Yeah.
now.
Senator Richards.
Yeah, parking on the Big Island, both Hilo and Kona.
Yeah.
Where are we with
Yeah,
that?
yesterday, Director and I did meet with SP Plus, who runs the parking structure there. And what we're doing is a couple of things. I think everybody knows that we are raising the rates on the parking. We're going to try to build more employee parking so that we free up parking stalls basically for passengers, the traveling public is what it comes down to. Secondly, is that one of the things that they've committed to us as of yesterday is that, like Honolulu, they're going to put digital signs in their airport saying how many stalls are available.
Oh, that's.
We have the front lot, we have the back lot, and basically what they're gonna do is they're gonna, just like we have the 3 different lots, say that this is how many. The other thing they're looking at is, which we caught us by surprise, is they're looking at a reservation system. If you know you're gonna go there at a certain time and you wanna reserve a stall, you can actually reserve a parking stall. What they'll do is that they'll probably give you some kind of code so that when you do get to the gate, you can put the code and that will let you in and that will save you a parking stalls when it comes down to it. So
That's innovative.
yeah, it is. And that's the reason why we felt it was very important to meet with them. And because everybody's at this conference that we're at now, Director and I did meet with them and we're gonna do that not only for Kona, but we're doing it for Hilo.
Yeah, so they're considering other options as well, valet service in different areas. So they're looking at different price points for different areas.
Oh.
But fully understanding though,
I gotta go to that cheap lot. I gotta go.
fully understanding, building more parking doesn't necessarily solve the issue if there is abuse of the system.
Mhm.
Right now, one of the biggest issues that we're finding is the monthly passes. We're seeing that people are using those lots for non-travel purposes sometimes. And that's what our staff are generally considering. So they're trying to see how we can best ensure that when people use those lots on the neighbor islands, that there's gonna be parking because people are there for travel purposes.
Yeah, so just so we're clear, when we say monthly parking, it's the monthly parking for non-airport employees. We offer monthly parking to obviously for airport employees, and that's actually we do consultants confer with the two bargaining units. We do that with all the airlines, but it's very limited, obviously because of the number of stalls that we have. Apparently, in Kona, they were selling monthly parking passes to above and beyond that. And that's what we're going to try to bring back. We're going to say, no, if you're not actually employed at the airport, you're not doing business with the airport, then you're not entitled to a monthly parking pass.
Oh, so some people were trying to get away from paying the daily.
Well, based on what we were told by SB, they're saying that, you have people who have multiple cars, but they're condos within, Kona and all that, they
It's,
have no place to park.
it's cheaper to store it at the
Yeah,
airport.
cheaper to leave it at the airport.
Yeah.
Oh,
So we're trying to make sure that we get out of people using the airport for non-travel purposes. We think there's a bunch of stalls that we can clear up already, just doing that. And of course, adding more parking for employees will help pull everybody out of the lots that are necessary for travelers.
Well, that is the complaint, that, and I appreciate anything we can do is going to make an improvement. However, you go on a holiday weekend or something like that, and everything is chock-a-block full, people are illegally parking. So it's a capacity thing as well. And I know that for Kona, and I think Hilo is the same thing. So I like what you're talking about, the technology. However, I think we still have a capacity issue as well.
We've identified approximately about $5 million to develop additional parking structure. And when I say parking structures, it's not a structure. It's an at-grade, basically asphalt lot that is striped with lighting, and that is what it comes down to. But that's for our employees, so employees can park there, so that, like I said, we can get them out of the public parking lots, is what it comes down to, so we can free more.
but if there is an opportunity for a business, for the DOT to create additional,
Oh, yeah, well,
you might want to look at
Well,
something.
definitely, but not in that airport area.
Yeah, somewhere else.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
And we get some land out there that we can
Yeah.
use. Yeah.
That you have,
Yeah.
that you have.
4,000 acres.
Thank you.
No,
And thank you for bringing Hilo in.
Relevant.
Oh, for Bella next.
No, I mean, she probably gonna say the same thing, that's why she came in, but Hilo ain't got no store parking, he parking on the grass.
Yeah.
And if it rains, you don't have a four-wheel drive, well, you staying on the grass. So when you can put a sign on the stalls, I don't know how you gonna count grass. So that's basically it, we gotta improve
Yeah,
some
and
of that
that's
stuff over there.
what I talked about is the asphalt lot.
Yeah. That's about it.
To say, but we're gonna try to gravel that lot to try to help out with, the mud and everything else. But again, everything takes time. We need the funding, we need basically to go through the process. I believe the first parking lot that we see improvements are is gonna be late week, because that's the one that's moved on the quickest. But Hilo, Kona, and even Maui, we made some changes in Maui, so the parking lot is not as bad as it used to be. In fact, we monitor every holiday. One of the things that we do is we send communications out. That's where director is very good at. He always reminds us, get the communication out. And we last Christmas and 3 or 4 times a day, we got the media calling director. How many stalls do you have available? So he calls me and I gotta go run downstairs and look at the so that we can play it. But again, one of the things that director asked me to try to take a look at, and we're gonna look at, is that we're gonna look at how we can take the information that they post in their parking lot and put it on the website. And we're very close to that. Again, they were working on the software and
So for Hilo and.
Well, and if HTA had an app,
Yeah, for all of our airports, there's contracting requirements that we're slowing some things down for the parking areas. And we're trying to minimize the time for that. So highways already has open-ended contracts that they're jumping in on too. So in Hilo area where there's potentials, highways will come in and just pave it for airports. They're gonna also do the same thing for the restriping that's necessary for airport access road in that area, just to make sure that we combining our resources to get things done faster.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So, thank you. So, for Hilo Airport, you folks know the news recently about the super long TSA line, which as you folks know, because airports, right, whenever there's a terror alert, they don't give away the free TSA passes. So the non-TSA free is, it went all the way to baggage claim.
Yeah.
Because there was no additional screener.
that is number one on our list.
Yes, thank
That
you.
Taking, and to be honest with you, what happened yesterday after we met with the administrator for TSA, he drove to Hilo.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
2 days, you know,
Yeah,
was
he
super
visited
long.
Hilo, in fact,
So.
The
couple
one
things
that we
Yeah,
didn't
it's
see.
January 1st, 2nd. That's why you didn't see it already, you know?
Couple things that we worked out with Administrator Kokoski, and again, I gotta tell you that this is one of the best I've seen on the partnership. He understood, there's breakdowns in his program that he needs to fix. His ordering system goes in order. So if an order from Hilo comes in right after San Jose, their system will take care of San Jose first, regardless of how long it takes to get parts from California down to Hawaii. So he understands that, and he's made sure that we are now cycled to the top, just because of the time frame it takes to get parts here. Second, he's committed to storing parts on island to ensure that when there's breakdowns in different areas, we'll potentially have the parts that are necessary. And third, he's committed to having open-ended contracts with mechanics so that they don't have to worry about trying to call somebody up, and on island as well. So they don't have to worry about calling somebody up in the event that something goes down. So 3 big things that we feel are going to cut the service time tremendously. What we told them is it's important for us to get it daily, but prior to Mary Monarch, we need assurances that if something goes down, we're going to have things up and running very, very quickly.
Yeah, because you know you'll get a riot there.
Oh, big time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so, well, I heard from the TSA people that you need also trained mechanics, because the guy who was there didn't know what was going
Well,
on.
that's the open-ended contract.
what happened was that one technician basically was on military leave, the other technician was on maternity leave. We've been reassured that those 2 are back to work, but they will be fully staffed by February.
Oh, terrific.
Yeah.
Okay, so second thing, sorry. Human Services Chair, we had a disability conference, right? So one concern was not only the Hilo Airport parking, the grass, the overflow parking, but also if there's a possibility for like covered, you know, because it rains so much, from the parking area into the
Yep.
I know a lot of it,
Yep.
a lot of it isn't. Okay, so
Yep.
extend the covered area is what we're requesting. That came from the disability conference. Second, that also came from disability conference, and I'm sorry, our Molokai senator isn't here. Extending the runway for Molokai Airport, is that a possibility?
You know, I've had many discussions with the senator, and 2 things, what I've asked her to do. First of all, if we build it, will they come? You know, I don't want to do any extension to any runway and then find out that none of the inter-island carriers are willing to fly there.
Alaska said that that's the only reason why they're not considering it, was because the runway was
We
too
had a
short.
discussion with Alaska yesterday as well. So,
Okay.
But the problem is that, okay, you take Lanai Airport. Lanai Airport, Mr. Ellison is doing the extension. It's about 500 feet
Mhm.
to the existing, which the existing runway is 5,000 feet. The 500-foot extension that they're paying for, we're not paying for any of it. It's right now at $27 million.
Mm.
In basically Molokai, 2 things are a problem. Number one, the width of that runway is only 100 feet. To accommodate the type of aircraft that Alaska and Hawaiian and Southwest flies, we have to take it to 150 feet.
Mm.
Okay, so we got to make it wider. Secondly, that runway is less than 5,000 feet. So for us to accommodate, again, that type of aircraft, probably like Lehui, 6,000, 6,500 is a very good length. So if you equate that mathematically, if a 500-foot extension is about $27 million, if I gotta add, again.
Talking about 60
yeah,
plus.
it's a
60
huge
million.
amount of money is what it
Yeah.
comes down to.
Okay,
But again, we're looking at different aspects of how we can. I am more aware, our staff is more aware of what's going on in Molokai than anybody, because all the complaints come to us.
yeah. You're never on time. Yeah.
And I missed my medical appointment. I did this. They complained to the governor's office sent it to us. Well, they sent it to Ed first, and then they sent it to us. So we're well aware of the problem. Believe me, we've been trying to resolve it.
That's the thing.
Looking at other airlines.
The biggest thing we can do is find an operator to compete in that area.
Yes,
It's difficult though. I mean, when Hawaiian shut down Wuhan,
Yeah.
they got rid of all the planes, and it was very difficult for them to consider how to stand something up very quickly like that. Same thing with Alaska when we talked to them, same thing with Southwest. Southwest's model is to use one jet
Mhm.
because that's the easiest thing for maintenance. So for all of them, extending the runway would allow them to operate in that area.
Yeah, to compete, yeah.
But now it's gotta make sense for them to actually service that area. So
Yeah.
that's the difficult part. Yeah.
Okay, well, I made my request from the Disability Council.
Okay,
Thank
any
you very
other
much.
questions for transportation?
Can I go back to the parking? When we talked to SP Plus, they're looking at how we can better cover different areas of parking. So we'll get back to them now. Sorry.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, Senator Pavel.
Thank you, Chair, for telling me where the security is. We get 10 different contracts.
Yes.
Yeah, and some of them is pretty high.
Oh, what did I create?
I never know how that much contract. Only reason why I say this, I mean, you guys can look at them. I mean, it's the outstanding balance, the amount, the maximum is 91 million. The reason why I'm asking you guys to do this is because previous past, when Securitas was there, I was one of the organizers to organize a union that is chopped up and kind of bust up at the airport. Original guy actually sold the union to this company that has it now. But I know for a fact, for the contract of the security, they put in and give to the state, because I seen it, back when we did this. The state has a number that the security give them. Let's just go with the number that I brought up. $42 an hour for fringe benefits like vacation, sick leave, all that great stuff. But when you ask the guard themselves, they have none of that. They don't have parking, they don't have any kind of vouchers. They're getting paid $12 an hour. But they're estimating per worker $42. So I want, maybe you guys cannot, in you guys' time now, but figure out how much and why we're getting charged from the company so much if they're only paying the employees minimum wage or above, and they're not getting any of that French benefit. Every single guard gets vacation and sick leave, but it's not coming to the guard. When they miss work, they get leave without pay. If they miss work for being sick, leave without pay. They go out with anything else, they can lose their job. So I don't know why we paying, I mean, of course, I just picked one number, the highest one over here, I seen 91 million. And you guys get 10 different contracts. And I understand the complexity of it all. But if I'm the company and I'm putting on contract and the state paying taxpayers' money, justify the $41 an hour. If you're only paying your employee, I can understand overhead, maybe double, right? $24 an hour, but not $42 and $47 an hour. And you guys look into that, because that's a lot of money when you're looking at the increase of the maximum value at 91 million, and then the outstanding is 13 million, and the contract is gonna be up on the 30th, 2024. So you know that money not gonna be the same. They're gonna rise everything up. But you guys, if you guys can, I don't know whose job is to do that, but I've been wanting to check that out for a while already.
So what we'll do basically is that because the contracts, every island has a contract.
Yes.
And that's the reason why you.
That's we get multiple, yes.
Secondly, under the bargaining unit contracts also, and with the way the state law is written, we have to pay the same. If there is a position that we're outside contracting that is similar to what's in the bargaining unit contract, we have to pay that same salary. So a lot of the contracts that we have will actually indicate that if there is a bargaining unit increase, we, meaning the state airport system, if let's say it's a 4% increase, we have to add that to their contract. That's part of their contract. So the value of what they get paid per hour is basically based on what, again, an equal position within the state. When it comes to benefits and all that other stuff, to be honest, I don't know, and I'll go research that for you.
Yeah, just do it because the union that is not a local union, the union bought out the local union and it's run by the county. So the negotiation was, if you get paid $12 an hour, right, your union scale is lower. You get paid more, your union scale is higher. When this company took over, everybody got to pay the same amount per month.
Yeah, we'll confirm
Yeah.
that what we're paying for as the employee is what the employee is getting, and so it's an actual cost. We'll
Yeah.
confirm.
Please, thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Any other questions for transportation?
What's the status of the TED wiring contract?
Well, Ted's wiring continues to bid on projects.
I know,
back in-
remember they put in the thing and they never completed it, and then you folks went out and completed it to
That-
catch the taxis. Is that working?
It's outdated. Okay, Senator, as you well know, that project started under Governor Kaitano
Right,
in the 1990s.
right.
When I came on board in 2011, we were still fighting with that contract.
Well, guys, not you,
Right.
were there, but it was not allowed to linger until I brought it up.
Right.
And then instead of collecting the bond, we went in and tried to put in the new equipment to catch a taxi for paying $3. And
And I
then
think,
somebody to monitor, it didn't even make sense.
well, it's not just taxis, it's anybody doing operations when it comes to transportation services. So it's airport shuttles, the airport.
Right, but a lot of them already paid, they have their thing, these are to catch the ones that didn't have that, which wasn't that many of them.
Well, our thing is that,
Okay,
Yeah.
wait, whether it is, so what, do we have a system now?
no,
So it wasn't needed, it was never needed, we spent what, $1.6 million
but again,
to get nothing?
well, the problem was that the software that we installed was from the 1990s. Okay, and
Yeah. And you let it lapse, they let it lapse.
They let it lapse, right,
2008, when
to
I brought it
2011.
up, and instead of getting the money from them or the bond, we tried to fix it to put in a system that was totally outdated.
when we went after the bond in 2011, which was well after the fact, okay, and you know that better than anybody because you and I have had many discussions on that. Basically, under the bond contract, the insurance company that provides with the bond can hire anybody they want to finish the project. And they hired Tibbs Wire and Service to finish the contract. Now, that decision was not made by us when we came on board, it was done. The transport pontoons were installed, and you're right, at that point, the software, and I wasn't gonna invest any more money in it.
Right.
So I just said, forget it, we use it to the extent that we use it,
And
then
we
we're
never
done,
used it to it for anything.
Right. because
But
again,
again, the fact that we even embarked on it, I mean,
No,
this is going back to what we had today, $8 million, and we got nothing. Same thing, Tibbs Wine, that's just one of many that problems out there that.
I'm not gonna argue that point with you because I agree with you 100%. You're absolutely correct.
It's crazy. We got all the money that we just got nothing for.
Yeah.
And whoever thought that we needed that system, I mean, and then you need somebody there 24/7 watching this monitor.
Oh, no, it was reports that was submitted after the fact. So,
The money is to go
no, and you're right, somebody gotta go through the reports.
catch $3. We never paid a $3.
I get something written in the 96, something now, it's just totally different, but.
Yeah, Senator Richards. Yeah.
Can I ask a question on highways? Are we just
Yeah,
about
go
wrapping up?
ahead.
Okay, thank you. My favorite conversation, Dano Extension. Where are we with that?
So on this one, this is one that we deferred for a while because two reasons. One was the funding that we had identified in rental car surcharge went away during COVID. And second was we couldn't justify that 120 million spend, given the funding that we have, especially given that the Biden administration doesn't necessarily support capacity. And of course, we can consider this project in a lot of different ways. But new land, new roads on new land generally is considered capacity for the Biden administration. That being said, thanks to your efforts and Representative Tarnett's efforts in making sure that we push forward with Congressman Tokuda and with the military is back into the conversation again. In the past, they had committed to being there and talking about it. And in general, nothing really came out of it. The recent conversations we had let them know that the ask is about $60 million and they didn't blink. So they're looking at defense access road spending that they could potentially add to the mix to make this project feasible for the DOT. For us, we're committed to moving forward with the planning efforts to ensure that we can be ready for funding as it comes through. We can finish up the EA as we go forward and finish up the pre-design to ensure that if there is funding out there for the military or discretionary grants, we can be ready to absorb it.
Okay, so we can put this back on the table, finish up the environmental assessment funding for that expectation.
So we didn't put anything on the budget for that.
Okay.
I'm expecting it's going to be about $2 million.
Yeah.
It's going to take about 18 months for that environmental to be completed. The pre-design piece is going to be in there as well. To get to final design, probably another year. So 2 to 2.5 years in order for us to be ready for construction. That being said, that gives us the time to chase down the funding with the military, especially with Steve there, very comfortable that we can work with them on it.
Yeah, it's and this would address a lot of things for the Big Island. It increases capacity, ties east to west much better. It also, some of the wildfire concerns, this will add extra capacity for Waikoloa Village. And I've been talking about this since I've been elected back in county council days. So, okay, I'm glad we're getting the direction. the number that we're looking at,
It's between 100 and 120 million.
Okay.
That's the cost that we're looking at right now. And this is based on it being about 75 million in 2018 dollars.
okay,
So given the escalations and the cost of goods, we're about 100, 120 million. We
okay.
can refine it better during the environmental process.
And then, as far as, if we can get military, because this would allow direct access to Waikoloa. So we're talking, what, 50%, something like that?
That's what we're looking at.
Okay,
Yeah, the ask is 50%.
okay. All right, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
The vacancies, there's over 200, 280.
80.
So total department vacancies are 534.
Oh,
534.
534. Which division is,
This is total DOT.
okay.
Oh, that's highways only.
Oh, highways is 280.
Yeah, overall, when I look at the vacancy report, I'm actually very happy with the way it's looking right now. We came down from 20% last year to about 19 now. So we dropped the 1% in vacancy. And that's a big thing.
Incremental progress, incremental.
That's a big
progress.
thing because the 2 years prior to, we went up every year.
Yeah.
So coming back down shows that some of the strategies we put out was pretty good. We've been-
When you went back, they went down 1%.
It's a good thing that we're attracting people. So this is the first year of many that we've hired more people.
But I thought we were trying to get DHER to help you with expanding Wiki and all of that.
We are. So one of the things that we committed to was making sure that we took care of the things that we could. The biggest thing was we have about 30% of the positions within DOT that are delegated to DOT. So we put a lot of effort in focusing on that 30% positions to ensure that we fill them as fast as we can while working with DHER on expanding Wiki. To expand Wiki, we gave DHER 6 positions. We funded them, we directed them towards DHER, and they filled 2 now so far of the 6. That's going to help them expand Wiki not only for DOT, but for other departments as well.
So you're doing any internships so you can get people in?
Absolutely.
and Downgrading, and then you can, grow them.
So a couple of things in the past that was difficult for on the internship program. We're definitely working with UH to bring in as many people as possible. We're working with high schools to bring in student hires as well, so that we can indoctrinate them into public service, get them comfortable there, so they can continue that career. For interns in the past, what we wanted to do is hire them if they're good and they wanted to be there. We wanted to hire them right there, but it didn't fulfill the state's process of compete. So what we're doing now is working with UH to ensure that they compete for the internships. And of course, there's more internships than there are interns that are available. So they're going to compete for the internship. And once they compete, we can just offer them the job afterwards if that's where they want to be. So we're trying to streamline the process for
So
anybody.
that process you're working with DHER.
Yes.
No, I was just gonna say that those engineers, are they still sitting in floor number 7, floor 7, the engineers, the private engineers?
They're not sitting within the DOT is what it comes, airports is what it comes down to, but with the
Are
amount
they
of,
still on state property?
only during training.
Oh,
Once they're done with
So
training, then they'll go back.
nobody outside of DOT.
Private engineers.
They need to learn basically the state system in terms of,
Shouldn't that be their responsibility? They want to bid on the contracts? Why do we?
no, what we're doing is that right now, we're going after every federal grant that's out there. Okay. And I tell you what, the amount of money that we're bringing in on a daily basis is just unbelievable. I don't have the resources to get these jobs done. So we need to bring in assistance from the outside. And we sat down with the first deputy and the director to figure out how the best to do this. Now, one of the challenges that when you bring a project on board, you got to have a project manager, I would say, but we need a state person that oversees that. So this person is actually going to be looking at projects, but we have somebody basically managing them. But they still need to understand how the state system works when it comes to our software, how to look up information and other things.
So we have somebody from Iron Tower, somebody from Rising Pagoda.
Not now. We put out a contract for it. They are going to start coming on board, and they're going to start working with us basically. And once they are done with their training, then they go back to their office and they work out of their office.
What kind of training? Why aren't you training our people? Why aren't you training the people you already have on staff? Is that what we hired them for?
Our people already know it. It's our people that are training them.
Why?
Because you need to know how to work with it. I mean, even like myself, when I go back to the airport, we have all these different software and systems that I need to be trained on so that I know how to access information.
Right,
So that's the
not
training.
Employees, but then when we contract out, don't we contract out people who have the knowledge?
They don't have the knowledge of state systems.
Then
They
they-
shouldn't have knowledge of the state systems until we train them. Nobody should know about what our systems, what information we can extract, what we have available, and so on and so forth. And I think even with the legislature, when I came here to work for Senator De La Cruz, I didn't know anything.
No, I know, but then you became our employee. They're not our
I wouldn't
employee.
say you didn't know anything.
No, I understand that.
That when you hire a contractor, you pay them to do that work and to be trained.
Yes,
You hire them with the experience. You don't hire them to say,
They're-
okay, just send me raw guys and I will train.
their expertise is in engineering, but their expertise is not how to work within the airport, basically, software system. There's certain things that you need to be able to input, there's certain information that you need to extract. You know, you need to be able to manage yourself within the software system that we have. Nobody knows that.
But isn't that what your employee is supposed to do? Your
No, but our
employee is supposed to
employee
manage-
basically
No, well,
If-
first of all, what are you outsourcing? Because I would think, like, for instance, if you're outsourcing design, let's say, right,
Right.
planning and design, they don't need to know our systems. You're outsourcing to them, they're gonna come back as to the client saying,
Yeah.
that- so why is that they're not,
no,
why does that relationship
that
become
is
different?
What we're talking about here is project management. Okay, so what we
The
do,
outsourcing project. management.
because we need people to help us manage the projects. If we don't
Isn't that
have,
what we're supposed to be hired for?
We continue to hire.
yeah.
We continue to hire. We have continuous hiring for all engineering positions.
Some of our engineers do project managers, so it doesn't require.
Absolutely.
So that's what DAGS is trying to do.
And
Yeah.
we're trying to do the same
So right now
thing.
we have three project managers that we already
Yeah.
shifted.
But in the meantime, I have like, I'm coming to you in my supplemental budget for $323 million worth.
But
of
I think this is a bigger, much larger conversation because DOE does this, I think UH might do this. You know, DAGS does this, you guys do this, so I'm not sure where DHERD should be a lot more involved so we can build capacity at scale for departments.
Absolutely, and we agree 100%. What we're doing right now is for survival. You know,
How do you pick that only Bowers and Kubota? and-
we put out an RFP and basically whoever basically qualifies, that's how we pick them. I mean, we cannot pick and choose who we want. We have to put it out. They have to go through the process to compete because there are a lot of companies that apply for this.
Apply for what?
When we put out the
For
RFP,
project
Yeah,
management.
manager,
right,
To be a project.
to help us do project management. It is actually a professional service contractor.
For Hawaiian Airlines maintenance facility, was that a hired gun or was that somebody in your staff?
Well, it was our staff that basically ran that project. Now, that project was inclusive of the entire Mauka terminal project. It was moving the
I'm
hangar.
just wanting to know, was that? your
It's
in-house?
Okay, so which are the projects that an outside company had to manage?
Well, whoever we assigned to them. We
So
haven't,
just give one project and the company that they're,
okay, well, Bowers and Kubota's one, AECOM's
yeah,
another.
which project was that?
Currently or,
No, it can be in the past. I mean, what Bowers did
Well,
which project management?
like, we had Wesley Sagawa helping us with the IAB in Kona,
But didn't Wesley Sagawa do the maintenance facility?
right? But they also did my IAB in Kona.
And
But
we lost
in Kona, he did it on time, on schedule. And in Kona,
It's
I
like
had
Ted
it,
Wiring, he keeps getting jobs, but he screwed up.
well, Ted Wiring, you and I know that we tried to debar them. And basically, I couldn't get it done. And I kind of explained that to you. I mean, I can only do what the AG's advised me to do. I cannot go beyond that. I did all the proper steps that you asked me to do. I did it, and they came back and said, no, you can't do it.
Trained Wesley Sagawa, who screwed up on the maintenance facility.
But
And now they're
again,
doing other projects.
he did a wonderful, I signed an
He's
MOA.
supposed to do a wonderful job.
Yeah, and he did.
Oh,
That customs that we have built,
Okay, so if you steal or rob somebody one time, but the rest of your life you don't, I mean, what, I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's like, come on, it's like,
there were a lot of problems basically with the hangar project.
yeah, but
and-
now you have to consider past performance, right?
Starting from this year. pass?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always considered, yes, for selections.
No, but it's
No,
gonna
That's
be.
one of
that's
the,
the
that
one, yeah.
performance is
Yeah,
always considered
yeah,
as part of.
yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just give a follow-up question. Is that the same
it's
guys that when we
long.
put in the electric door and then they realize now we have electric?
Well, that I don't, you're
Okay.
talking
It's the
about,
same project, but what happened was the state decided they wanted electric doors. And so they did a change order and the doors came in, but then they found out there were conduits. That's
well,
the same.
if I can explain that. Again.
No need, no need, no need.
So I just wanted to see was
Okay, any other questions for DOT? Okay, sounds like lots of conversations during subject matter committee.
Yeah, let's close with one thing and just say thank you for finally changing out the signs by the baggage claims. When people pull up to the curb, they know which column they're at. There's not two different sets, there's only one.
Well, except they're not all even. They're all,
Yeah, they're all
like a little cup of coffee a little bit, but
See that 7B894?
It's
I guess
emergency column.
it's
and again,
incremental
people
step
start
progress.
heading Above. You know,
Incremental
you
steps.
and things like that,
Yeah.
have to be lower and so on. and so forth. So, yeah, the TCs basically we're working on, making sure that they're there, especially during the peak hours between 10 and 2.
Okay, so we're gonna take probably 5 minutes so that we can switch up. Yeah, for DCCA.
Thank you.
Okay, adjourn.
Thanks.
Good afternoon. We're convening this joint informational briefing between the Ways and Means and the Commerce and Consumer Protection Committees to hear the supplemental budget requests of the Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs, Director, Deputy, members of the DCCA. Aloha, Happy New Year, and please proceed.
Aloha, Happy New Year. I would address, I guess, Chair Dela Cruz, who I assume is going to be joining us, and Chair Kyo Kalole, Vice Chairs Moriwaki and Fukunaga, and members of the Senate Committees on Ways and Means and Consumer Protection. I'm Nadine Ando. I'm the Director of the DCCA, and I'm here with members of the department to provide testimony and answer questions related to the DCCA's budget requests for fiscal year 2025. We greatly appreciate this opportunity to come before you as you consider our budget requests, and appreciate that you have taken the time to review our budget requests and related submissions, as well as the department's responses to some specific requests for information that we received from the committees. I will not go over and read through my entire written presentation, and will instead summarize and highlight some of what we are including in the request and what was submitted. But first, I'd like to take the time to introduce the members of the department, in particular, the division chiefs who are here present today. And of course, we have Deputy Director Dean Hazama, Will New, our communications officer, Kyle Ladau, our legislative coordinator, Michael Won, business management officer, Jason Horiuchi, our program administrator for Hawaii Post-Secondary Education Authorization Program, Hai Nohara, Commissioner of Securities in the Business Registration Division, Randy Leong, our administrator for cable television, Michael Angelo, Consumer Advocate with the Division of Consumer Advocacy, Iris Ikeda, Financial Institutions Commissioner, Bob Hiltner, our Information Systems Manager of the Information Systems Division, Gordon Ito, the Insurance Commissioner for Insurance Division, Denise Balanai, Senior Hearings Officer in the Office of Administrative Hearings, Lana Moriarty, our Executive Director of the Office of Consumer Protection, Alani Kioki, Licensing Administrator with the Professional and Vocational Licensing Division, Esther Brown, Compliance and Enforcement Officer with the Regulated Industries Complaints Office. And from the PUC, we have Leo Asuncion, Chair of the PUC, and Jody Endo Chai, the Executive Officer of the PUC. So they are all here. and willing and ready to answer any questions that might be specifically addressed to them. We noted in our written submission, all the requests we have in our budget requests are ceiling increases for use of our special funds. And this, as you are well aware, the DCCA's funding source is unique among departments, as its programs and operations are specially funded by its own revenue generation.
You want to just go over maybe table 6 then?
Okay. Jump to table 6.
Because then we can just go straight into whatever you're.
Okay. And so I had just very briefly summarized, plan to summarize, I guess, funding related, first of all, to the website redesign and what's described in table 6 as the call center. It's basically, as we had looked at last year, a need to redesign the department's website to make it more consumer friendly and accessible. And we needed really to do a major overhaul of what the website looked like. So that's part of it. And part of it includes a complaints centralizing software to enable anyone to go into the website and be able to access information about complaints and status and things of those nature that would make it easier for, I think, everyone to be able to have an efficient system. So for that, that is our budget request of 2.5 million for that that project in particular. And we also have included within the budget request and table 6 is the funding for our captive insurance branch, which has experienced increased operating costs and therefore a need for an additional 1.175 million to address their increased operating expenses. The table 6 also includes funding for consultant services for the PUC, as well as for our DCA division, Consumer Advocate Division. And so those requests are $1 million and 900,000 respectively. There's a match on the DCA consultant services, which is basically that money will be needed to be coming from the PUC. So it's a match that corresponds to what will have to be funded by the PUC, and so having the increased ceiling for that. The next thing on table 6 is another IT enhancement or cost need, which is relating to cloud migration. And as explained there, we are looking for an increase of $550,000 for that service. Another IT expense is related to the Voyager system. That's another 100,000 for that. There is a impact in our, not exactly sure, but I believe that's another one that's related to the IT system enhancement. And the next one, item 9, relates to, this is to establish one position and funding for that position. And this is for our PVL division. And in particular, it's to address, I think, a need for additional services relating to licensing for nurses, where there is a critical need, I think, to be able to move license processing along faster. So there is that request for one position for PVL. Item number 10 is relating again to IT. This relates to training, internal training of staff to basically take over support for the Salesforce environment and applications that are being used in the department, and the request there is 75,000 for that expense. We had some salary differential that is also related to that IT department, and that's an item that's described as 41,480,000. The balance of the items listed on table 6.
It's just
right,
increasing for each.
yeah, it's basically increased fringe, and so these are all the different divisions and their needs for the increased fringe.
Okay.
So we kind of get down to the bottom, and that's the balance of whatever's left
Okay,
on this table.
so on priorities 6, 7, 8, you mentioned those are all IT projects.
Yeah, I think I made a mistake. I'm not sure if number 8 is IT.
So, Rico and OCP share the same system called Impact. So one of the line items is for maintenance and monitor and changes for Rico, and the other one for 112 is for, 110 is OCP and 112 is for Rico.
Okay, what I wanted to find out is I guess the Voyager, the cloud migration, are those monies, new monies, or in addition to existing projects?
So the Voyager Impact system exists. So they're just asking money so that they can improve, each section can improve their system for their operation.
So how much total did we spend for that so far? What year did we start?
Voyager has been up and running for, I would say at least 5 years now.
Okay, and the total cost for Voyager?
I think Voyager was, the initial implementation cost was, development cost was 350,000, somewhere around there.
And this is the first time you're asking for some additional funds?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay, and the impact?
Same thing. They're the same system.
Oh.
Voyager and Impact are the same system.
Okay, and the cloud migration, well, how much have you asked so far in quote?
Nothing. This is a new initiative for us. So currently we have physical servers located at King Kalkau building, UH, and
Yeah, same as ETS.
right.
But
Are you working with BTS on this?
Yeah, we are, but
does ETS require you to pay for your own, or
we pay our own.
and that's the case for every department, or
I'm not sure about every department, but we pay our own.
okay, because you're special funded,
Yes.
but you coordinate with them.
What are you migrating to the cloud?
So our physical servers support our virtual desktop and our network, pretty much our networking services to NGN.
Data, you store your data.
Not a lot of data. It's mostly network information, and so we have one physical server that has data on it, but we are going to move off of that by the summertime, this summer. It's primarily networking and virtual desktop services that we have on our network.
And then Salesforce, why is that only for one? Why is that only 191? Does everybody use Salesforce?
Our IT section comes under 191.
But everyone has access to that, or just the one?
This is training for us to take over maintenance of our systems that we've developed over time.
Okay, because
So-
we saw that in other departments too.
Yeah. So, when we develop a system, because we don't have the expertise that, we build up, we have to pay for maintenance. So what we want to do is train our own in-house resources so that we don't have to pay for any of that maintenance anymore.
So what is the associated ongoing cost that you're going to replace from this one time
I think when we put it all together, it's close to $700,000 we pay for maintenance.
a year?
Yes,
That's service cost to Salesforce.
maintenance. Yeah.
Thank you.
But you have staff doing this, right?
We have staff, and that's why we need to train them properly to get them up to speed.
So all programs in your department will be on Salesforce.
Not all of them, but the majority of them. We have a couple of insurances a couple of systems in insurance that reside on a nationwide system called SBS. So we don't maintain any of that.
Mhm.
But for the most part, all of All of our major systems operate on Salesforce environment.
Senator Fabel.
Hold on, I just think Senator Moore, keep talking to Mike.
Oh. Any questions? CC.
Not like him.
Sorry, I got a question, but I just wanted to do that,
Go ahead.
sorry. Don't like the hang on. Anyway, so, for you guys licensing, so I have a building contracting license. Yeah, and somebody takes my license and do a contract, then I find out that they illegally obtained a contract and did something illegal at the property. Where does it come in for my license to be protected by you guys? Because it's happening often. And a lot of the business owners are coming to me and saying that they don't want, and they put in complaints, they went into your office, but they don't want to happen that something happened to the house and they license gets sued, even though homeowner know that the licensed owner with DPP went there and said the work was done illegally. Where does the DCCA comes in to protect the licensing person?
That's it.
Hello, Senator. I'm Esther Brown, Division Chief for RICO. Basically, if somebody has claims that a licensee is doing something inappropriate, then they do file complaints with our office. We vet the complaints, we investigate it, and if there's good evidence that there's a licensing law violation, then we can proceed with prosecutorial action, which would mean we could end up in front of the contractor's licensing board, and they have the authority to discipline the license.
So like what I'm saying is, so I get the license, I put in a complaint to you, you find out that the person don't have license, don't have nothing, but when using my license illegally, am I protected? That's the question that I'm asking.
The process that we have in place is to prosecute the offender. So the person who may have misappropriated your license. By prosecuting, meaning if they're an unlicensed person, we would go in front of the circuit court to try to get some action. If they're a licensee, we can essentially pull their license if the conduct is egregious enough. So it would depend on the facts that were given in our investigation.
Okay, appreciate that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Nobody has questions.
I give them a question, but I figured let somebody else go. Go ahead. Okay, so, I don't know, I think I brought this up in one of the committees on the towing fees. Our towing fees for towing companies haven't increased for probably maybe 15 or maybe more years. But gasoline, everything, labor, everything went up. And I'm just gonna let you know, I'm not gonna say who, but somebody told me in one of the hearings after the thing didn't pass was that nobody was complaining. So now I'm glad you guys are gonna have a complaint department, or you guys gonna be up and running a complaint department, because they are complaining. That's the reason why I brought them up. But anyway, so how can we find out on when was the last time the towing fees was increased?
Oh, it's been a while.
And is it comparable to what's happening now with a few costs, labor,
Well,
and all
aren't
that?
they set by law? Oh, he's gonna answer.
Well, Chair and Senator, Mana Moriarty, I'm the Office of Consumer Protection Executive Director. So yeah, that's correct, Chair. The towing fees are set by law, set by statute. We'd have to look into exactly the last time the legislature
Yeah.
touched the statute and the fees.
It's been a
Get back
long
to-
time.
They're not asking.
What's the total? Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
so gets pissed off. We tried that.
Yeah.
Keep your card so sometimes, you know, light's not popular.
Okay, thank you.
So, table 23, can you just make sure that you find or gather the travel reports for the ones that were not turned in?
We have a process.
Okay, and you have a consistent form or?
Well, not really a form one, but we just basically give them guidelines on what the report should say. So we have like a delinquent report that comes out. File the report within a certain amount of time.
Okay, and then I noticed on table 13, a high overtime percentage for the harbors. Oh, sorry, wrong one. Table. Table 21. The unbudgeted salaries. So for certain positions, there's quite a bit of increases that's above the budgeted salary. 1209676 123 245. They're above and beyond. So why is it your current practice to not come in for the actual budgeted salaries? How do you make sure that they're consistent with the budget tables?
We do reconcile our budget tables with the actual salaries. So there's a reconciliation process that we do.
How often?
We do it annually.
So these are all off then.
Well, yeah,
Page 46.
right. And some of you notice the dollar values are very small. Those are just rounding errors based on the,
No, but some are large.
yeah, I mean, some are big, but you know, there's some of them that are a dollar or two.
So you get the money out of what? Current expenses?
Take it out of our current budget though. Our current authorization.
Yeah, so from vacancies or
Yeah,
current expenses.
vacancies.
So
So
you
we
just
don't-
take it from somewhere else.
We don't use operating expenses to pay for salary. We just take it out of our budgeted salary amount.
Oh, so all within the
Vacancy. Yeah,
vacancies.
all within the.
So you never transfer from OCE.
So if you fill all your positions, you're not gonna have money to fund this.
Technically, that's true.
So.
So that's why we we go in and we monitor it very closely to make sure that, you know, we can offer X amount of salaries. We're gonna have to do some adjustments because as we get closer to 100% being filled in a particular area, we have to watch our budget to make sure that we stay under our within our budgeted salary amounts.
So what is the basis for the increases?
Well, there's some times when, you know, we have to offer.
Well, it says all were approved by director.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole column is, some agencies have, by statute, others have, board, but yours is all the director.
Yeah.
So there is some discretion involved when, say there's a particular vacancy that has been very difficult to fill, to find the right candidate who has the right qualifications. And we are dealing with a situation where in order to get the candidate to make an offer that will result in a hiring to fill that vacancy, we may be asked to consider paying a little bit more to be able to get that person in and accept the offer. So that happens, especially where it's very different. Some of these positions are very specialized.
Well, most of these were approved in 2022.
Well, I guess I wasn't here in 2022. I can say from experience since I've been here that when it is something that comes up for discretion and approval, it's always explained to me why this is a particular request that's being made by the division to get some ability to offer a little bit more money in order to get this person to accept the position and fill that vacancy.
No, but if
Many
it's,
times it's been very difficult.
but if it's annual, then these should have been reconciled because this is from
Yes,
2022.
Right, you're right.
Yeah, so these are not all new hires. Right? These are not all new hires.
And then, okay, on table 14, I noticed that Alvarez and Associates contract ended in 2021, but it's still active.
What was that? Sorry.
14.
14. Okay.
page 30 for us.
Hours and associates.
Yeah, if you look at the from to, it says to July 26, 21, but then when you go to the second to the last column, it says yes.
10/30/18 to 3/9/20.
It's a DCA one, so. We close down.
Oh, okay. So this, what is that, typo or?
It's just. We closed it since.
Okay.
That's the same, two contracts. There's two operators,
Yeah,
one for 45,000, one for 16.
yeah.
Is that the same thing? The
I'm-
description reads the same.
Deputy.
It's just an option year. There's a multi-year contract. The first year is the base year, and then the second year would be the first option year of that contract. So that's why we listed it.
So is that the same thing for snaps?
The SNAP one. Well, the first one is not. If the description is the same, those are option years off of the basic contract. But you notice the first SNAP one, the description is different, so that's a different contract.
It has 252,000.
Right,
Yes,
still
that's
remaining
contract.
balance in that contract, yes.
They're open since 2012.
So for DCA, they hire consultants for docket specific, but if that docket doesn't get heard or gets deferred or whatever, we just keep that contract in place.
And then I noticed on the vacancy table, there's one person that's 89-day hire 7 times.
Someone else. So legal clerk for hearings.
Yeah, priority number 54. Yeah, that's awkward, huh?
Yeah.
But then,
Qualify that person for the job.
Good afternoon, Senators. My name is Denise Ball, and I am the Senior Hearings Officer for the Office of Administrative Hearings. That individual came to our division, I believe, in August. We are currently training her to take a vacant legal clerk position. And I believe the plan is to have her apply any
okay,
day now.
So
So
that-
we're hoping that DHERD will give her the requisite qualifications so that we can make her permanent.
okay. So she's in the current position she's going to apply for.
Correct.
There's nobody else that qualifies for that.
We do get lists from DHERD, and every time we get a list, we do try to contact those individuals, but so far we have not had any luck with anyone on the list. They either have already found other positions or they don't respond.
So nobody within your department.
Well, actually, the 89-day hire person is the one that we
Right.
like for that position, so.
But there's nobody else. qualifies.
No, actually, we do intend to do an internal recruitment as well. We have another vacancy, same position for legal clerk. So, you know, we are going to try to do that as well. But the person that is currently in the 89-day position, we feel like she's really close to being ready. So we've invested some time in her and we would like to make her permanent. as soon as DHERD allows that.
Because the concerns that get raised to us is that departments put people in 89-day hire that don't meet the minimum qualifications to get them to get the qualifications, while there's people within the department get bypassed for some reason. Same thing at UH, they put interim positions, they don't meet the minimum qualifications, and then they get it, and then they put it out, and that person gets it above all the other people who've been waiting and working for a long periods of time, and they get bypassed. So I'm just raising this concern that that's not the case in the situation.
Sure, I believe the list that we get from DHERD also includes people within our department, so.
No, what I'm saying is that before you put anybody in that position, did it go out for recruitment?
That position, I don't think we did.
Yeah, see, you didn't go out for, you just put somebody at 89, and there could have been somebody wanting the job that was already. I'm just saying, that's
Sure,
the
that's-
concern that people call and tell us about.
Okay, thank you.
And then you guys got some vacancies from 18, 19, but you have them all expected to fill in a couple months,
Realistic is.
2021.
Yeah. So, real older ones are, positions. One is in Kauai and the other one in Hilo. So it's been very challenging for us to get a candidate in on those types of positions. So that's why they've been out there for so long. They're investigators, for Hilo and Kauai.
But you guys are asking for at least one new position, right? In your
For
addition.
PVL for nursing.
Yeah, that's just
But
for
then-
the specific for PVL for the nurses licensing.
So why not take one of these vacancies?
In the past, we've been utilizing internal trade-off
Yeah.
as much as we can.
Because this is quite a bit actually, right?
In fact,
It's like what, one
One of
page
the-
and then
in fact, the May 1st, 20 position is a trade-off in this budget request. So.
So on this table 11 on page 2, 19, except for a couple position that says 6/30/24 and 9/1/9/1/24 and 1/7, you pretty much can fill all these positions by June then.
That's our plan. Obviously, we try our best. I mean, we filled 6 job fairs this
Yeah, I
past
know
year.
what your plan is, but it says expected fill date. So it just seems that departments don't take that date seriously because you don't want us to cut the position. So you make it seem like it's ready to be filled. Then next year, the same position is still vacant. So you've got 2 pages and 90% of this you expect to fill by June 30th. And so that means you're not gonna have too many vacancies next year then. Or you're not gonna have, when we ask you in June to submit this, you're gonna have 0 vacancies. I mean,
We push all of our division chiefs to fill all their vacancies, so.
right,
I know we're getting lists and
but we
stuff.
want realistic dates. Right? I
Yeah.
mean,
It's kind of hard because, you know, we get lists and we do interviews and some of the people on the lists, you know, they're not interested anymore. They don't even respond back.
yeah,
to
but the
us.
older ones, why even keep them? I mean, if the department needs a position for that particular agency, but this specific position you can't hire for, why not change the position to something you can attract?
Right, understood. So we are encouraging them to look at redescriptions and finding other kind of types of position titles that are out there. So we're pushing for that too, so.
Yeah, the other thing is for some of these, you might have to just grow your own, especially in neighbor islands. So you're going to have to look at maybe working with community college or, UH, Hilo, depending on the island, because we're going to have to train. Because I don't know if you saw the first hearing where Eugene Tian from DBID said the sector that's going to be the hardest to find people is government. And so we're having every department, Department of Ag is 1/3 the whole department. So we gotta look at it a little differently.
Well, we have to think outside the box because we cannot continue to do the same thing. So we encourage that. I mean,
position is really old and it hasn't been filled. We gotta do something else.
No, yeah, so you have some from, like I said, 2018, and
Yeah.
maybe some of these we should be relooking at the minimum.
Qualification.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
you know, most companies have gotten rid of the bachelor's requirement. And so if we start with CTE or AA, and then you can create a pathway for them.
We have to work with DHERD on changing all the.
Yeah, so you either gotta go lower
Right.
for entry level and like build them, or you're gonna have to go higher and pay a higher salary to attract them. But the current one doesn't seem to work. The current situation is not working. Because I'm serious, I mean, Senator Kim compares like the last 5 years of this chart. So she sees like, oh, hey, it's not filled yet, but the date looks current on when you're gonna expect to fill.
So when you come next year, I'm gonna pull out the sheet, I'm gonna say which ones of these did, no, I do that for you.
She does that.
I do it 3 years back, in the same position, told me they're gonna fill it every year, and it's still vacant. Still vacant. So, you know, they do that because they don't want us to cut it. Well, after that, we're not gonna rely on the dates and we'll cut them anyway. So we're not gonna know when it's a true date and when it's a bad date.
And then if they're using that for the pay differential, then they should just say. If they're gonna take from the vacancies for pay differential, you know, any department, they should just be more accurate, and then we don't need the extra position. So these vacancies, how much of it has caused a hardship?
I think all of them are critical, but the challenging part, and we're not the only ones that have it, is, you know, the entry level positions, the office assistants and stuff, those are very challenging to fill. Right, because like you said, the pay level, I think, is too low, and we're not attracting enough candidates. The
Yeah,
ones that we do have, you know, they're not interested because the pay's too low and they can work someplace
yeah.
else,
And
right?
I mean, I heard one story from one department saying that they were gonna hire someone. And another department stole them. Almost similar salary, except they were offering 2 days telework versus 1 day telework. And that's how they're able to get the one person. So that's where no consistency throughout the telework policy now allows other departments to start bidding against each other. And then the salary, we gotta like re-examine this because we're only killing ourselves by not coming up with something that's more sustainable.
Consistent.
And especially now in this market, I mean, you know, you don't get back to that person or you don't contact that person right away, they're gone.
Well, that's why if we can transition more to wiki or things like that,
Yeah, delegated authorities.
and then consider the intern
We have.
so that they don't have to be part of the overall list.
Right, they're not on your.
They were part of the list for the internship. Now, why we have to do that again?
Right.
When you're already training this person.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure why, you know, DHER doesn't try to accommodate, because these lists are too long for every department.
You heard coming for us.
Pretty soon, I think. Anyway, other question, any other question?
Now we move to telework.
You can, yeah, go ahead.
So the telework policy, I see that almost everybody is on a 2-day telework. Is that across the board?
Up to 2 days.
It's offered as up to 2 days, but
No, but according to this, it's 2 days, right? The list, you've got
Page
2
20,
days.
table 23.
I
Yeah.
think I think in general, you're correct.
Sorry,
that
table 22, page 47.
Most of the divisions, where there are employees that are qualified, given their positions to be able to telework. In most divisions, we do see that
Well, being qualified is one thing, but whether or not the department can function and they can do the work, I
Right.
mean, it's like, that's two different things, right?
You're correct, and that's why as part of the overall process before we implemented the program, which was as of July 1, we went through a pretty detailed process with our division chiefs in terms of being able to develop performance metrics so that before we even started the program, we would have every division come up with what they were planning to do to measure performance, to ensure that employees who are doing work from home and teleworking would be performing at satisfactory levels. And each division came up with their own methodology of being able to get those reports from the employees on the days that they telework so that they'd be able to review them, sign off on it, that they reviewed it, and make some determination to have these filed on a monthly basis. But many of them, and I have some forms here to kind of just demonstrate the kind of the level of detail they might request. Some of them required effectively timesheets, breaking down on the days that they're teleworking, what their tasks were and how much time they spent. Others had other means of trying to measure whether or not, if there was an expectation that they would be able to accomplish so many tasks.
It's
on a
pretty
given
much
day.
two days.
It's up to
Majority.
2 days.
Right, but if looking at what you reported here, there's some at 1, there's a
Right.
number at 4, but the majority is at 2 days.
Yes.
I don't think there's anybody, I mean, the only, up to 4 is not part of our department's telework plan or program. I believe it's the PUC that has something that offers up to 4 days, but not within the divisions in the DCCA.
So some departments, like I know with BNF, they said you no telework on Monday, Friday. I mean, so what's your policy as far as this 2-day? How do you guys?
We don't restrict the days. However, the employee has to identify the telework. There are 2 telework days and they're not allowed to deviate from those 2 days.
Okay, so what about, and other departments are saying there has to be a day where everybody's in the office so that they can collaborate, have meetings. You don't do that, no?
So you can have the building can be empty with all the people that are on telework.
Well, no, I
Same
mean, the
thing.
supervisor's responsible for allowing or approving the telework. So they're not gonna, make it where everybody's gone on 2 days. Right?
I don't know.
So,
Which one- which is-
So what we have seen, because we do have these reports come in on a monthly basis.
So you guys, the 2 of you review them.
Dean reviews
So
it, to
they're-
be honest.
yeah.
I'm gonna be-
They're reported weekly and then I review them monthly, once a month.
But what we've seen, for example, that typically, I think, within the divisions, they work out sort of because the days that someone is going to telework are set. So if it's
Tuesday, Thursday.
right, Tuesday, Thursday, or Monday, Friday, or whatever, there's something that's set. And then they work out, I think, how to make sure that there's coverage and how there's going to be not a situation where there's.
But there should be coverage, right? So if somebody
yeah.
calling,
Right.
doesn't
of
matter if
course.
you're teleworking or not, somebody's supposed to pick up the
Right.
phone.
But just the idea that certain things, maybe, it's important to have people in the office, in particular, and not.
For office hours.
Right, so that there'd be that kind of, clear that there's someone there. And so I know, for example, I mean, I was just talking to, like our administrative hearings office, for example, I mean, everybody's in the office on Wednesday. I mean, so they have worked it out so that they've determined that they should have everybody in 1 day a week so that, the telework system kind of works so that they'll have 1 day a week that everyone is in.
So what about hoteling? You guys do hoteling?
I'm sorry.
Shared space. So Dags was talking about using that as an option now, where if you telework, you have to share desks.
Oh, I don't think we have looked into that, in terms of a space.
You don't get a fight.
That we don't have if you're teleworking, you don't have a dedicated, space for your desk. I mean, I think given.
Wheel here? Yeah, you got a lot of teleworkers. I mean, have you guys considered that? Because we did discuss this. I mean, Dean and we did discuss this. There are certain positions, even though you have a substantial amount, there are certain positions where they gotta be in the office. That's just the nature of the
Right.
work.
Exactly.
So I don't see why we can't have more modular spaces for the people that are working remotely. And then, especially because you guys are undergoing a renovation and there are entire parts of your building that are not, you cannot have people in right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, Senators Leo Sanchin, Chair of the PUC.
This is nothing compared to Congress, so you should have an easy time.
I just want to add that Congress does have a time limit when questions and answers need to be done by, which
We can
is-
use a 2 hour time.
Proceed.
you know, we don't, as far as hoteling, we don't have like excess employees where we don't have enough space.
No,
Right,
but you
'cause
could
the-
reduce your footprint. Sounds
We
like.
could,
Yeah, because you have, starting from page 55 hours to 71, or
Yes.
47 to 064. Most of them are 4 days. You have up to 4 days.
we offer them up to 4
It
days,
says 4 days, so I'm assuming they're taking the 4 days.
not everyone.
Well, why are you listed? Yeah, not everyone,
Well-
but the majority, 90% have taken 4 days.
Yeah,
So that means your office for 4 days out of the week is a ghost town, pretty
in,
much.
in theory, right? Because at the other side of it is, right, if what we allow our managers to do is if they need to have their employees in for a certain reason, right? We have that ability to bring them back into the office and say that was their telework day. They give up that telework day for the week.
Yeah, but how often is that?
Quite a bit, because when we have dockets going and when the docket teams need to meet, right, they come from different parts of our organization. And if the team leader says, we need everybody in because something is due or we want to move on a certain dockets, et cetera, we have team meetings.
Yeah, but we cannot have these buildings with lighting and everything else so that they can come in one day all together, once every so often. I mean,
Well,
it's not a
yeah,
efficient
well,
use of space.
like I said, I think I was actually surprised, right? Even when we were, right, we had a flood, we were renovating, right? We had everybody at home. This was during the pandemic. People still came in, right? Because they needed to, right? They couldn't do it by teams, even though they were asked to come, but they came into the office looking for space. So we had to convert at that time because our basement offices where the bulk of our employees were, we converted our hearing room to workspace, right? And with the 6 foot distance and all of that. And that's what we would use our space for, right? We actually offer our hearing room to any other agency that wants to use it. Because they want to have a team, the state auditors uses our room because they don't have space on the 5th floor of their building. Right, so we remain flexible, but like I said, right, we don't have a situation where we have more employees than space available or cubicles available.
Well, I thank you for being flexible on that, especially you, Director, because we went round and round on this during the session last year. And I appreciate that we've worked with you guys and you guys have done a lot of the hard work to come up with your own plan. I can tell you from reaching out to other departments, there's a real spectrum of interest and willingness to put in work on telework among the department administrators. So if frankly, some of the other ones are being lazy or slow on this, then it doesn't really bother me that DCCA is doing better on recruitment or retention because you guys have figured it out. But if your metrics are slower, then that's something we also got to take accountability for. Yeah, certainly.
But you track that.
Yeah, I mean, we.
So you're getting the complaints, responding to the complaints on time, processing.
Right, I mean, the different, depending on what the positions require in terms of how many, like we have, part of the reporting includes, like, if there's an expectation that they would be addressing so many calls, so many complaints or something, you know, that those are some of the things that some of the divisions have done in terms of coming up with metrics, like requiring this many, these many tasks should be done at this particular day so that they will know that things are getting done that need to be done. So they evaluate that. So there's an expectation of what's required in order to keep, because this is viewed as a privilege.
Yeah.
Not as a right. So in order to keep the privilege, there's an expectation that you have to demonstrate that you're doing the work according to what was agreed upon when you started off doing any kind of telework. So we have an agreement that, any employee who is participating and taking up to 2 days to telework, there's an agreement that it gets into so that they understand that these are the requirements. And then if things aren't met, then that can be taken away.
So the supervisor gets training?
The supervisors, well, everyone goes through training program on teleworking.
From internal or from DHERD?
DHERD.
So that's just a video though.
Right. It is that's required. They go through and sit through the
I
training.
mean, they don't necessarily
But
train.
whether the supervisors, I think the supervisors are also involved in teleworking as well. So, but we very much stress that, we're not going to be there to police this, and that it's up to the supervisors if they want to be able to continue to have the privilege, because it's what they take advantage of as well, that they have to be looking at the performance metrics of the people who work.
Well, somebody got to police it though, right?
Well,
Because then we get complaints from the community and the public saying that they're not satisfied with the service that is going on. And then we hear other complaints that somebody's home taking care of their sick relative, sick mother, or their kids, which is not allowed. And if you're not going to check on it, then it gets to the point where we get the complaints.
well,
And then it goes on.
I don't know when those complaints came in, relative to when we began our program.
It doesn't matter. I'm
Which
just
is
saying,
July.
so the complaints that do come in.
Right.
And you are the one that judging whether or not these employees are meeting the requirements. But when the public feels that you're not acting quick enough, then how does that get addressed?
Well, I think if there's a specific complaint about a particular,
I can give you specific complaints.
then, we will look
And I
into
have
it.
called and I have complained regarding a specific case. And a lot of times, unless we go through it personally, we don't know what the situation is until we get it. And when we call and we don't get action, and I've mentioned this to the department, I haven't heard back. I haven't heard back from your investigator or the person handling the case, which is why I asked for all these numbers.
Right.
Because when we're asking you as director should know that something's not right. Something in your department is not right for us to have to ask for this information.
Well, certainly we would take into account if you have received.
So I'm surprised you folks didn't call me to ask me why I was asking this request. Instead, you called the Ways and Means Committee chair to ask for clarification, but I was the one that asked for it.
Well, certainly if you have the specifics of complaints, we would always look into, and if there is something that points to the fact that we have the particular employees who should have been addressing whatever the issue was, if it has something to do with a performance deficiency because they have been working from home instead of being in the office, those are things that we would take a
Right,
look
and I have no way of knowing if they're working from home or not. Right. But I also hear a lot of stuff that what goes on in the department and how slow that the response is. And it only got confirmed when this incident happened.
Well, we will certainly look into it, and if there's specifics that are brought to our attention, we will go back to the division, we will go back and talk to the division chief and the supervisor and have them look into it to determine.
But I brought this up back in November and you guys haven't contacted me. I asked for this information in December. You folks haven't called me to find out if there's an issue.
Yeah, then I apologize. In terms of, we received the request, but we weren't sure how this worked because
Can you?
Was it a request coming from the committee? And that I think is what we sought some
You gotta
clarification.
pick up the phone and ask, right? But see, the public face this and they don't know who to call. They don't know what their resources are.
Well, so I would like to see a copy of that as well, because we have received feedback from inside the department and, well, not from the public about the telework policy. We've received feedback from the public about access on your website. But we have received feedback from within your department about your telework policy. So, like I said, we've gone over this. There are people on the other side, and I'm sure throughout state government that we're losing because there isn't clarity on this within the different departments. So you guys should have to answer these hard questions if there are performance issues. Absolutely.
I agree. We agree. It should be something we look into.
Where does these monies from the fines go? Like from consumer protection, from repo? I imagine it goes back to that department, or where do the fines go? Collections,
Goes into the special fund.
it all sits in the special fund?
Yeah.
And used for that particular division, or does it
Yes,
go for
that particular
salaries, or
division.
does it go for,
That particular division.
for what? What purposes, salaries, or what does it go?
Yeah, for operating costs, could be anything, but you know, the legislature still has to approve authorization appropriation.
So can we get listing of how much these funds have in, the balances, or do we have that already?
It's in the CRF report. For each fund is listed in the CRF report, the balance at that time.
And that's something you folks submitted? Did you just submit that?
Yeah, that's a requirement to submit before the end of each year. It's also,
Do you have a limit as to what you can carry over?
no,
So what is your highest balance? Would you know?
business registration. Yeah. Up 38 million.
38 million
Yeah.
in business registration, and those are just fines, or
Their-
is
their
that,
operating
is that
costs.
fees?
Their operating budget is 8.
What portion of that is fees and what portion of that is?
They don't have fees. Well,
Don't,
their fees are the registration fees.
right, people have to pay for their license. Yeah, but you're not supposed to collect more than what it costs to run the program. Isn't that the
Well, the
policy?
CRF is allowed to keep, a balance.
Yeah, but technically, any fees, you're supposed to be charging the consumer what it costs to run the program. You cannot charge exorbitant fees and fill up all those balances
Right.
that is not related. So technically, if your fees are too high and your balances are growing, you're supposed to give the money back to the payment,
Well,
right?
You can modify your fees.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what, have you folks looked at that? Like,
Yeah, we look at that constantly.
I think
can we see those analysis? You do what, yearly?
So, I
Monthly?
mean, we have balances, but they also are responsible, the funds have to pay the expenses as well.
Right, so.
And they also have to pay,
So you need to show us what you spent, but if you're accumulating, what you said, 27 million
yeah.
in the fund, and that's ongoing. So that must be some, for you to accumulate 27 million,
It goes up and down. And the balances, go up and
yeah,
down.
but by how much? Not by much. I mean, you do big cases, you can get big settlements, but the fees is the portion that I wanted to know about. I can see where the cases and, the awards you get or whatever goes up and down, but the fees pretty much depending on.
So the programs will monitor their balances.
Who monitors them to make sure that we're not overcharging the people that are paying the fees?
When we look at the balance reports, I think when we start seeing the balances increase, then we'll raise a concern.
Okay,
to them.
so the concern haven't raised, you don't see it right
Well,
now?
I mean,
They have a 27 million balance, but you know, their operating costs annually are, you know, about 10.
Okay, 10, so you got 27 million.
Yeah.
That's a $17 million spread.
Yeah.
Every year. So if $10 million and you got 27 plus you're adding to that.
But we normally,
I don't want to argue with you. I just want to know to show us that you folks are doing this analysis and not like at what point? Is it at 27? Is it at 26? Is it at 15?
we normally have we call a allowable reserve to take into account
Okay, so what's,
changes in the economy and all that.
what's that allowable reserve?
Usually 16 to 18 months worth of
Yeah,
operating.
but what's that dollars? What's that amount?
About 18. About 18. Yeah.
And you have 27. Okay. Done.
Okay, I just had one question for PUC again. So what's PUC's role in being proactive in ensuring that we're not going to have a cycle and continuous cycles of rolling blackouts? Because other states have got to the point where it's just a normal thing.
Yeah.
And we talked about this before, where we need a statewide energy plan that addresses this and the whole 2045 renewable energy goals and what's the percentage of what technologies, and there's no major effort for more firm renewables. So how is the PUC gonna?
Well, first of all, right, the PUC's role on in the energy spectrum is the regulatory side. Right. So I would agree with you, right? We do need an updated strategic energy plan, right? How we're gonna get to 2045. I think I've been advocating for that even before I came to the PUC. And so because if we had that, right, looking at the projects that come through, right, we shouldn't be in a like piecemeal fashion approving projects by a certain time frame, right? In piecemeal fashion, right? Like project by project, right? We're supposed to know if you're coming in and this is the plan for X year, for X year, we're supposed to be able to say, hey, all of these projects are approved, right? That streamlines that approval process. So I agree with you. Now, who is the better person to do that, right? The better agency. In my mind, it's probably the energy office.
But if they're not gonna do it, maybe
well, if it comes to us, right, you have to remember our process, right? It's a quasi judicial process, which means we open up dockets, right? Investigatory dockets. We have a lot of parties that intervene, right? And we go through that process, right? That's the process that is mandated to us by law. So, right, that's not the typical planning process, right? Because now you're more into a judicial, framework, right, to do a plan, right? So it could be where we look at the functions of our agency and either reorg it, right? There's examples on the mainland where PUCs have sort of like a planning staff, right? And there's a China wall between that staff and the regulatory staff, right? The people that's going to review all of the work that this other agency does, right? If I were to take that example here in Hawaii, that's what the energy office would be for, right?
Yeah.
That kind of non-regulatory can do all the planning.
Nobody's holding the energy office accountable to say, hey, by now, why don't you have a plan of benchmarks for every 5 years to be struck? They don't. I'm not sure who's supposed to do that. So they don't have a board, and they're not part of DBID. They're attached to DBID, so they're kind of on their own. So yet we don't see any kind of outcome to even give us guidance, right, on certain tax incentives or land acquisition or any type of buying assets to help, or we have to save certain ag land for biofuel. I mean, I don't know, hydro. We don't even have any guidance from them as to how we should be moving forward on the legislative side to reach our goal. So
I would to respond, and this is something for, I think, the legislature to discuss, right? Remember, right, the legislature created that office, right? Right, they were in existence, and then, but to take them out and become attached, right, it was through a bill.
Yeah.
And you set forth what their mission is, right? So if it's embedded in there, then it's, letting them know this is how, right, it's interpreted. If it's not embedded in their mission, you might have to add that in, right?
The
Then
benchmark.
that's one way,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because if not, then it's still going to be status quo, right? I mean, we can't unilaterally order any agency to do X.
Unless we legislate it.
Correct.
But there seems to be something missing because it's between Office of Energy and Heat and PUC, we're almost allowing the utility to figure out, okay, what's going to be the plan. So KIUC came up with their own plan on 100% rate. They have a whole great pie chart to show.
Yes.
We can see it is very transparent. That's not the case with the other islands. We have no idea where we're headed if we have to put more investment into geothermal or whatever the case.
Correct. Yeah, we do have plans that we're reviewing now, like the IGP, like parts of it, right? But if you're looking for not collective, but a comprehensive plan of action, yeah, that's not present, right? It's all in pieces.
Yeah.
Right. And that might be the answer too, right?
Like
How do we
hard.
pull together all of the different aspects, right, around energy and how we're going to get to 2045? Maybe that's what we need to actually do, right? Bring back how all of these other, related items have been put into separate dockets on their own, right? And
Yeah,
bring
same
that
thing
back.
with us. How do you look
Yeah.
at all the pieces of legislation and how does it all fit? Because if not, we have carbon tax credit here. We have, different 6 million for geothermal research there, but yeah, we don't know where it's all headed.
Yep.
And going back to Senator Kim's point, that office is 100% telework. And that office, when you look at the travel reports, has the most travel compared to any other DBED attached agency or department. Yeah, we're not getting the results of figuring out what's our plan and how we're going to actually achieve 2045.
Understood.
So I don't know what kind of ideas you have for restructuring so that we actually can get something real.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, that I'm looking at only our area, right? And if we are tasked to do both planning and regulatory work, we need to make that split, right? I mean, because right now, right, I do have staff doing the planning work, but then, right, what kind of falls short is we don't work with all the stakeholders because we're in this quasi-judicial framework to do our work in, right? So, right, we need that separation, and that's one of the items, right? Basically taking some examples from mainland PUCs and making that, workable here, right? Right now, it's not because we have one regulatory framework, which is the quasi-judicial nature of our organization.
Yeah. So if they took the lead on a real plan, then you guys could regulate to achieve the plan.
Yeah, and that's what our role would be, right? To review projects, right? Either that Hawaiian Electric, right? Because that all starts with the RFP, right? Hawaiian Electric can do an RFP that matches up with the plan, right? So, right, absent that, right, we are using what projections that Hawaiian Electric has, right,
So
to get to.
what I don't like and what I'm uncomfortable with is we have lots of intermittent. We don't really don't have that much firm. And then you have the fossil fuel plants on hold. You can't get rid of them just in case the intermittent goes down. But then you can't have you're gonna have this whole workforce just waiting. And when you need the fossil fuel plants because the intermittent doesn't work, then you got to bring these guys in. So that doesn't make sense to me. Versus if we have firm renewable, people can be working the day you open it or even before that.
Yeah, you do have a couple of in the current stage 3 RFP, right? That's the first time that there are a kind of carve out for firm renewables. There are certain projects that have been selected. They're going through that negotiation process with Hawaiian Electric, right? Because what we want from them is total price, right, including interconnection, right? Instead of the piecemeal way it was
Yeah.
coming.
Yeah.
Approve this, but then interconnection is get added on and then
After
the
the
price
fact,
changes.
yeah, and then
Right.
the
So
project
that
fails.
should be into us, I believe by fall of this year, right? So we'll see how many, right? They announced 15 projects. I think like 3 or 4 of them are firm, right? Is how they shake out at the end, right?
Yeah.
After.
Yeah.
The total cost is provided and then what's the impact to the ratepayer, right, et cetera.
Because we find it difficult even without the energy plan, then ag and energy are constantly fighting,
Yes, and also housing,
so then,
right? Where do we put?
but yet we're the state, and why aren't we reconciling amongst ourselves to achieve all of our goals? Not sure why. So, any other questions before the lights go out?
There's a press release that we're not gonna have problems today.
Oh, yeah?
Yes, Hawaii Electric just put one out about 3 o'clock.
Okay. I changed the subject. The Maui investigations, you've stated that the PUC is in a support role with, I think, I believe the Attorney General's investigation.
Also, the Maui Fire ATF.
And the ATF investigate. Can you provide us an update on the status of those? And do you have an update on the PUC's role in facilitating your statutory obligations to investigate, incidents accidents where there's a loss of life?
Yeah, so in terms of Maui wildfire, right, we are awaiting the actual cause, right? At the end of the day, for the
Which is being investigated by
Maui Fire /ATF.
ATF.
Yes. As far as the timing for that, I do not know. I do know that all of their sort of investigative work has been completed. And it's really upon ATF and Maui Fire to kind of put all of that to paper. Right? Because from their standpoint, don't quote me because I'm not sure about their process, but they just come out with a report. Just like, right, the fire department looks into every fire, right? They put out a report. That's what's gonna come out. There's no like draft, there's no kind, right? It's they investigated, they got all of their information, they talked to people. Here is what happened, right? And I don't know what that's gonna say, right? Our involvement as far as supporting that effort was Maui Fire and ATF asked us to have like someone available to talk about, right, engineering policies or engineering standards that may or may not have been met, depending on what they find.
Okay.
Right. So it's more on the engineering side, like we need help, right? We don't have the expertise. The PUC has engineers. So we actually had one policy person and one engineer support ATF, whatever.
So is that ongoing or has that wound down?
Like I said, the investigation part has wound down. It's on ATF and Maui Fire to do the final report.
I'm asking about, because it's the budget briefing, I'm asking about the nature of your capacity that you're lending to these different investigations and then what the scope of whatever action you may or may not take into the future looks like.
Okay. So as far as
and there's also the AG's investigation.
Okay. So as far as the two people from my staff that aided ATF and Maui Fire, that's completed.
Okay.
Right, because like I said, they were more on the investigation side.
Okay.
Right, to clarify engineering, technical stuff, etc.
Okay, so what's the nature of of the support that you're lending to the AG?
AG is on call.
Okay, but it's the same technical expertise primarily.
No, it's
whatever
the AG wants to take a look at. And to my knowledge, I think that has also gotten to the point of they've already talked to enough people, right? Because the AG did everyone react or did what they needed to do in this emergency process.
Okay,
right.
So now for yours.
Okay, for ours,
what is being contemplated?
For ours, right? irregardless of the cause, right? The end game for us is, say it was a pole that failed, right? Or, a wire that came down that was not insulated, and that's found, right? Through the investigations that are going on. Our job is to make sure in the future, how do we take care of making sure, right, does a standard need to be created so that everything is insulated line? Does a standard have to be made, right, to underground everything? But then for us, right, we also need to look at cost of repair.
Right.
Right, because all of that infrastructure, no matter what you do, because it's infrastructure, it goes into base rates for the utility.
Right.
Right, so everyone's gonna pay, right, and if we're talking Maui, it would be the Maui Electric customers, right, because there's no cross subsidization between the different parts of Hiko. Right, whatever happens on that island, that group of ratepayers.
Well, so that's why I'm trying to understand, because your process triggers, there is no actual trigger from my reading on the statute. There's no time limit, and the scope seems like it's gonna be significantly determined by the processes, these external processes to the PUC.
Yes.
But I'm trying to understand just how you're gonna approach it, because you're right, there are already calls in Kailua to underground all of the utility poles. And so, you guys are the ones that are, there is statutory, I think, a mandate for that determination to, it seems to me like the statutory mandate is for a call like of that nature to be made by you guys at some point in the aftermath of this, if the investigations reflect that.
Correct.
Okay. Just not, we don't know right just yet.
Correct. If I had a little bit more certainty, like the report was coming out tomorrow, right? I would like to see that report, and we could immediately say, hey, we find something wrong with the operations of Hiko, right? We see something wrong with current standard that maybe should have been updated.
Right.
Right.
Well, so at that point, I would appreciate some sort of correspondence from you guys as to how you're going to proceed going forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. That's the PUC.
Well, just real fast, then, going back to some of the dockets, you were there when we had the site visit on Maui before the fire, and we talked about workforce, and at the time, Energy Office didn't see workforce development as part of their mission, even though they're part of DBED. So I'm not sure why, but if we have all this money going to the community college to create energy jobs, but we don't know what energy jobs, because we don't know which technologies we're pursuing per se. Is that something that the PUC can consider waiting when they look at the dockets as far as creating local jobs?
Certainly we can take a look at it. I think, ironically.
We're talking construction only for the solar energy.
Yes,
we're
correct.
looking at long-term
Correct.
jobs.
Actually, the IBW has come in to us, right, and asking, right, how can they play a role?
Yeah, because you're gonna have to transition
supporting
quite a
that.
bit of people from the fossil fuel plants and even unfortunately the coal plant, right, to something else that's renewable.
Yeah.
And hopefully even larger than that, so that we can get a pipeline going.
Yeah, actually, I would actually commend AES, right, because the coal plant was private.
Yeah.
Right, you didn't have unionized workers, but they found, right, anyone that was willing to either stay with the company or move, they found them jobs, right? There was a small percentage that said, I'm going to retire, right? I didn't need a job. So AES did go out of their way, right? Because they didn't have to, right? But they felt it important. And so some of them ended up at like
And that's
Kailua.
okay, but we should be
But-
looking at how we transition lots of people from a fossil fuel and coal technology to a new type of economy with new energy jobs.
Yeah.
Preferably firm, because that's the one that you need people regularly.
Yeah. I think I will share that one of the things we're looking at, right? Because
Wait, real quick though,
the-
hopefully the consumer advocate though is also, when they're going to in front of the PUC, is looking at workforce for local people. Because just because some technology is cheaper, you gotta look at workforce.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like that's highlighted enough in any of these conversations.
Yeah, I think one of the items too that, right, the future of energy, right, is all, it's decentralized from HECO per se, right? It's going to be these companies coming in, right, building, right, constructing solar farms or utility scale, fine, but then they're also operating it, right? So it's how do we get these companies to look at hiring local, like local first, basically.
You know, that's what,
Right.
I mean, we've all been saying that.
And or start to train the local force, right? Because that's something, a discussion I had with
Well, there's
Senator
all the
Picoy.
federal funds going to community college for the good jobs.
Yeah.
And this energy is a whole component, but then I'm still unclear as to, okay, what's the curriculum and for what job?
Yeah.
So then the community college got to go make up something so that they can spend the money.
Mhm.
Not even going to be relevant to what we're trying to actually accomplish.
You do ask the number of jobs you're creating, right? But does anybody monitor that and say, okay, yeah, did you or?
Yeah, I mean, and that's where I think, you know, and this is my experience, right, on the land development side, right? We run into the same issue, right? When we look at jobs, there's a number that gets kicked out, and then usually it's all construction,
Yeah.
right? So it's not
not
divided
long-term.
up as far as what is long-term and what is short-term,
Yeah.
right? And there are sometimes when you see some developments that come up, they actually tell you, right, it's going 100 jobs construction, but then
Nothing.
5 jobs
Yeah.
thereafter, right? The long term, right? And I understand, right? That's the part we either gotta even out or flip.
Yeah.
Right.
So is there any monitoring or circling back with companies that say, we're going to do all
Yeah,
that
I
stuff?
don't think so.
Yeah, I don't-
Even you can do.
I don't think
Even
so.
when you've allowed solar companies to do ag and mainly really like goats and sheep, and then you know a couple years later you don't see any.
Yeah, or there's only 1 or 2 guys that capitalize and they move their sheep around.
You know, and
That's
we
why
don't-
I know that happens on Kauai.
We don't have a small animal, you know, slaughterhouse. We're not
Yeah.
we're not taking the wool. I mean, so I don't know. I don't even know how that way. It's almost like just for show.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions?
I have a follow-up for DCCA. Leo, yeah, you off the hook. The website, you're asking for $2.5 million ceiling increase. I see that some changes have been made, which look better than it did last time, but there's still, I think, 28 tabs on the front page. And if I want to go to the file a complaint section, a lot of words before you get down to the clip art, and it's still pretty confusing. So I know you guys have done, can you explain what have you done? How much has it costed? And what's the 2.5 million for?
Hi, thank you, Bob Hiltner, ISCO. What we're working on now is the upgrade of the homepage and the complaints page and consolidation of that complaints portal, if you will. It's so you don't come to this wall of text, but actually streamline the intake process. You don't have to become an expert in what kind of complaint you have, basically to make that easier for the consumer to come in.
Is that all?
That's what's going on at this point for phase 1. So to follow, integrating the complaints management and adding some AI to make the site easier to navigate. So we're taking steps now. There's an active project that should be delivered by end of April.
So how much is that, and what is the 2.5 million for then?
Okay, so the cost of that project for phase 1 is 186,000. Then
Okay, that's just the homepage and the complaint portal?
it's
Okay.
starting with the homepage complaints portal. And then we're taking that there. Yeah, so the homepage gives it's 187,000. Excuse me. So that gives you updated look and feel of the homepage and complaints. So it'll be easier to come in and manage that. It's also going to be adding that to the Salesforce cloud experience to improve the website capability. And then we'll be migrating old pages from the older site to that new platform. So it's a modernized platform that will give us a better, going forward look from the WordPress.
Right. So what's the 2.5 million for?
The 2.5 million takes on consolidating the complaints management to manage the call center, and then to add on AI to make our website more usable.
So the 187,000 is just for the homepage, and then the remaining 2.5 million is for the backend complaint management system.
Well, we'll stand up onto the Salesforce platform in that 187,000. Stand up on the Salesforce platform, that new complaints management system. So it will start off there, and then we'll be consolidating onto that and integrating to the call center so that they'll have more of a view of where the complaints are, be able to respond to calls, and also importantly to divert calls so that there's not so many, there's not as much necessary calls to take in that it can be answered on the website.
So what about the other 20-something tabs on this homepage? Like what about all these other divisions and programs and their sites?
It's a big project. I think
is that incorporated in the 2.5 million, or is there some other separate allocation, or is it in the 187,000 that you already are?
It's not, all of that is not in the 187,000. So we'll be improving our homepage. But there, as you say, are a lot of areas for improvement on the site, and we're undertaking that as a journey, but we need to start with the most.
So that's going to be
pieces.
an allocation for a later year ceiling request?
I think that under the maintenance and operations, we'll have the new platform.
Okay.
So then it's an ongoing effort with internal staff and our contractors to continue to migrate parts of the website to that.
For over how long?
I think that the phase 2 and 3 of this go into 25 and 26.
So it's going to take over it's going to take over $2.5 million and over 3 years to fix the website.
It's not just the website. The call center is a lot of that expense. So that 1.2 million of this call center, right? So and subscription costs. So there's costs to manage that website, ongoing costs. I mean, not to manage the website, but to license the platform.
So last year, when you guys came in, I made a big stink about how the website's hard to navigate.
Mhm.
And so you said you'd put a plan together. And then the only budget add that's reflected in here is this $2.5 million request. But it's not actually for the website. It's for the backend call center to support the complaint tab. There's like 40 to 50 other sections of the website that also need to be addressed that I guess you guys are going to do later. Okay. What's the plan?
The plan is the 2.5 million will cover standing up the complaint center, redoing the homepage, as well as all the division websites.
Okay.
So we took your input to heart, but I actually went on the darn thing and
because the homepage and the complaint site are absolutely number 1 and 2 priority. I don't want to.
Right. So we gotta get the homepage first, and the complaints system is gonna be implemented. And then we're gonna work on all the rest of the back-end sites, but it is included in this project, in the cost. So this budget item includes all of that.
Why does it have to take 3 years?
It's not gonna take 3 years.
Okay, I hope not, because you guys are supposed to be the example, so I can go bug the DLNR after
We
this.
anticipate We originally anticipated this whole thing being done within 10 to 12 months at the most.
Okay, can you guys provide a chart or some sort of breakout of what the phases are, what the timeline is,
Timeline.
and what the allocations are?
Okay.
Since you guys already have money in this rolling, so that it's easier to understand what the rest of the money is for. Okay. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Just a question, does it include all of the agencies that you have within the department, and how is it? Because I'm looking at it now, it's really kind of confusing because you have so many
Yeah, all the-
agencies, so
all-
how are you gonna? How are you gonna put it on the website, so you know, just a person coming in and say, oh, I know, I have an insurance problem, or I have you know, a RICO problem, whatever it is, be able to see right on the front page, so I can go into it in more depth, you know, in terms of how
Yeah,
that's
so
being
the
laid
plan
out.
is it for, to be very interactive and be very easy for the consumers to do. So you're gonna type in like, it's gonna ask you like, okay, what's your problem? What's your question? And it'll be able to direct you to the proper, whether it's an insurance question, whether it's a DFI question or something like that, and get the person the help that they need without having to funnel through and figure out all these.
Yeah, because it's all just listing, and you know, for a person coming in, it's like, whoa, I don't know. What is it? A bit
Yeah, it's hard.
registration, or it says complaint processing, but it's all different kinds of complaints that you're processing
Yeah,
too, right?
right.
So.
Or email Senator Mercado Kim, and then we do it this way, right after this hearing is done.
No, so when we started to look at what our website was, we quickly found out that it's not really only a website project, right? It's how to help the people that wanna work with us or need information from us. What's the best way for them to get that and the quickest way for them to do that? Some people wanna still talk to somebody on the phone, right? They have a question, they wanna talk with. Some people are fine with chatting. Some people are fine with, hey, just.
I do all as long as I can get a response.
Right.
I mean, I'm on the waiting, but I'm still chatting with Hawaiian, and
Right.
you know, like somebody respond.
So that's the whole object of this project, really, is to get that response, get that person, you know, obviously record their complaint and address that complaint and track their complaint.
Yeah.
So you know,
But
AI,
that's good metrics.
and that's right, it'll give us a chance to get metrics on all of that stuff.
So but we still have the opportunity, because there are some people who don't know how to surf the website very well. We still have the opportunity to get a live person.
Yes, so you can talk to them on the phone, you can do an email, you can send them an email to respond back to you. Right, or you can even, like you said, you know, like you said, you chats and does multitasking at the same time. The other thing that the senator wanted was he also wanted people to be able to use this on their mobile devices and their phone, right? Which is something that our website cannot really do well now. So we're incorporating all of that technology into this project, so we can address Senator Kim's complaint faster.
Come on.
It actually is a simple complaint. Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you. Adjourn.
Okay.